please settle down and close the doors, Your Honors. We'd like to greet our colleagues present. Physically present with us is one of the committee vice chairs, Senator Nancy Binay. Good morning, ma'am. And virtually present is also one of our committee vice chairs, Senator Bongo. Good morning, sir. Good morning to the DBM family, led by the Secretary, Secretary Amina Pangandaman. Morning, ma'am. She's joined by Undersecretary Janet Abuel. Morning. Undersecretary Joselito Basilio. Undersecretary Leo Angelo Larcia. Morning. Undersecretary Goddess Hope Libiran. Undersecretary Wilford Will Wong. Assistant Secretary Cristina Clasara. Kompleto ba yan? Okay. Assistant Secretary Romeo Matthew Balangkit. Morning po. Director Dante De Chavez, Director Financial Service. Morning. Morning ho. Executive Director of the GPPB, Government Policy Procurement Board, Technical Support Office, Rowena Candice Ruiz. Morning po. Procurement Service DBM, Attorney Jen Maris Entradicho Kaong, Deputy Executive Director. And for the Metro Manila Development Authority, or MMDA, we have Acting Chairman, Engineer Carlo Antonio Di Mayuga. Morning, sir. General Manager, Engineer Baltazar Melgar. And we have virtual attendees from the COA, Teresa Ronquillo, OIC, Maureen Hoves, Audit Team Leader, Danilo Mirasol, Audit Team Leader. Good morning, Your Honors. May nakalimutan ba ako, Pamsec? Okay, thank you. I think we're waiting for a few more guests, but I think we can start. And if there are any opening remarks on the part of my colleagues, we'll give them time. No? Okay, thank you, Senator Binay. We'll now turn it over to Senator Go. Any opening statement, Your Honor? Wala. Okay, we'll turn it over to our good Secretary, Secretary Amina Pangandaman. Morning, ma'am. If you have any presentations for us. And again, we'll beg the indulgence of our colleagues. Let's have there are three presentations, I understand. Tama ba, Secretary?
Yes.
Three presentations for the department, for the lump sum funds, and for the MMDA. So first, we'll turn it over to Secretary Mina for the DBM proper. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you po. Good morning. Good morning, Honorable Senator Sani Angara, Chairperson of the Committee on Finance, Senator Nancy Binay, and other members of distinguished members of our Senate of the Philippines who are online. On behalf of the Department of Budget and Management, I thank you for giving us this opportunity to present DBM's proposed budget for fiscal year 2023. Before we begin the presentation, allow me to say a few introductory words. In the same way that I am advocating prudent management of fiscal resources in the entire bureaucracy, I will also ensure the efficient and sound utilization of government funds and resources within DBM. The DBM and its attached agencies will lead by example, and this is reflected in our 1.8 1.816 billion budget proposal, which shall cover the operating requirements of the Office of the Secretary and the Government Procurement Policy Board Technical Support Office. The proposed budget is guided by my priorities as DBM Secretary: bureaucratic efficiency, budget reform and modernization, and green public procurement. With this budget proposal, the DBM commits to deliver two organizational outcomes. First, allocative efficiency and operational effectiveness enhanced, and second, budget improved through sustained fiscal discipline and fiscal openness. Organizational outcome 1, or allocative efficiency and operational effectiveness enhanced, corners the biggest share with 474.14 million, or equivalent to 87.49% of the proposed budget for OSEC's program and operations. It covers the bulk of the DBM functions, which shall be explained further in the course of our presentation. While organizational outcome 2, or the budget improved through sustained fiscal discipline and fiscal openness, will be provided with 28.14 million, or a 5.19% of the total budget. Thank you, Mr. Chairperson and members of the committee. At this point, may I request to recognize Director Dante De Chavez of DBM's Financial Service and ASEC Christy Casara to present the SPFs and ALGO. Thank you.
Recognize Director De Chavez. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and to our Madam Secretary. To the Honorable Chairperson and members of the Senate Committee on Finance, fellow servants in government, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It is our privilege to present to you the proposed budget of the Department of Budget and Management for fiscal year 2023. The 2023 proposed budget, which is 1,816,87,000,000 or 14.24% lower than the fiscal year 2022 budget, shall cover the operating requirements of the Office of the Secretary or OSEC and the Government Procurement Policy Board Technical Support Office or the GPP-BTSO. Now, the disaggregation of the budget by major programs and categories. Of the proposed 1,816,87,000,000 proposed budget, 95.75% or 1,739,59,000,000 is allocated to OSEC to fund the regular programs of the Central Office 19 bureaus, services, offices, and 16 regional offices. This also includes the implementation of locally funded projects worth 149.08 million to enable DBM to pursue our existing ICT projects, to implement the various reforms, initiatives to improve and further strengthen public fund management. Number 3, facilitate the budget process and procurement transactions, and for promote transparency and accountability in the government. This aggregation of the budget by program and project, the remaining 4.25% or 77.28 million will cover the attached agencies or the GPP-BTSO's programs and projects. On the cost structure disaggregated by classification, 807.83 million or 44.46% of the DBM proposed budget, inclusive of the GPP-BTSO, will go to its general administration and support. On the other hand, a total of 467.08 million or 25.71% will be allocated to support the operations or STO, such as the legal services, advocacy, communications and training services, and information and communications technology system service, among others. The remaining 541.96 million or 29.83% will be provided for operations. By allotment class, the FY 2023 proposed budget of the Office of the Secretary will set aside 960.53 million or 52.87% for personnel services, 704 or 0.09 million or 38.75% for maintenance and other operating expenses, and 74.97 million or 4.13% for retirement and life insurance premium. The 80.49 million decrease in MOE for FY 2023 is attributed to the reduction in the provision for subscription expenses from the current 2 years provision to 1 year provision in 2023 of various general ICT services and non-provision for some item expenditures of programs and activities. For DBM OSEC, there is no provision for capital outlay in fiscal year 2023. For the GPP TSO, personnel services accounts for 2.58% or 46.95 billion, while MOE has 94% or 17.13 million. Capital outlay, on the other hand, corners 0.49% or 8.92 million, intended for the application and installation of electricity, water, and sewerage system in the new GPP-BTSO building, and furniture and fixtures for the auditorium and training rooms. By allotment class, as a share of the total combined proposed budgets of the OSEC and GPPB-TSO, personal services represents 55.45%, MOE 39.70%, capital outlays 0.49%, and RDIP of 4.36%. The request for original proposal to DBM, the total proposal to DBM is 1.497 billion 324,000. So that will cover the PS corresponding to the field position and the equivalent for trans requirement of the said field positions. For MOE, it will cover those items with multi-year contractual authority and originally for capital outlays of 23,600,000 for motor vehicles. On the other hand, the original proposal for GPPB TSO is 162.43%. So there's already a decrease of 41.01% compared with the NEP and the 2022 General Appropriations Act. By organizational outcome for operations, consistent with our mandate, DBM OSEC commits to deliver two organizational outcomes. Of these two outcomes, organizational outcome 1, allocative efficiency and operational effectiveness enhanced, corners the biggest share with 474.14 million, equivalent to 87.49% of the proposed budget for OSEC's program operations at its covers bulk of the DBM function. Organizational and Productivity Enhancement Program. This refers to the issuance of NGAs, GOCCs on public expenditure and organizational management reforms and productivity improvement measures. Number 2, evaluation of the organization, staffing, compensation, and position classification proposals. And 3, policy formulation and standard setting and evaluation of agency proposals, internal control systems, and procedures geared at improving productivity and for major organization and staffing modification, compensation, and position classification. Budget Operations and Performance Management Program. This is for management, administration, and implementation of the expenditure program at agency level and preparation of the annual national budget. The Local Management Policy Development Program, issuance to LGUs on public expenditure and organizational management reforms and productivity improvement measures. And on the Fiscal and Openness Program, for the organizational outcome 2, budget improved through sustained fiscal discipline and fiscal openness will be provided with 28.14 million or 5.19%. Meanwhile, the GPPB-TSO will pursue its organizational outcome of efficient government operations to enable government agencies to improve their procurement performance with a budget of 39.67 million or 7.32% of the total operations budget of the DBM. On the financial performance, on the status of the fund utilization as of December 31, 2021, around 1,738.64 million was incurred as obligations out of the total allotments of 2,448.45 million, which translates to an obligation rate of 71.01%. Of the total obligations incurred, 287.02 million went to MOE and capital outlays. Please take note that out of the balance of 522.07 million, 434.83 million will be utilized. The remaining regular operating requirements of the office due to the extended validity of the FY 2021 appropriations in 2022 pursuant to Republic Act number 11640. Meanwhile, the disbursement rate of 94.30% pertains to obligations paid as of December 31, 2021. The status of funds utilization as of June 30, 2022 includes carryover allotment from FY 2021 amounting to 425.83 million due to the extended validity of the 2021 appropriations pursuant to RA 11 number 640, an act extending the availability of the 2021 appropriations to December 31, 2022. On the physical performance or the physical report of operations as of June 30, 2022, the DBM OSEC successfully achieved all its programs under the FY 2021 DBM performance commitments. Also, the 2022 first semester performance of the DBM OSEC on the same programs are all currently on track, posting positive performance. The same with physical report of operations for the GPPB TSO. That's all, Mr. Chair, and thank you and God bless po.
Secretary, any other presentation? Maybe we can go to MMDA before we go to the lump sum funds. Yeah. Morning, Chairman Carlo. Please go ahead, sir, if you have any presentation.
Good morning, Honorable Chair Senator Sonny Angara, and good morning, Honorable Senator Ma'am Nancy Binay, and to the honorable members of the committee. I respectfully would like to present the committee on our proposed expenditure program for the fiscal year 2023. With the indulgence of our honorable senators, may I ask my Director Miko Gison to give you the presentation of our detailed expenditure program for 2023 and the sum of the proposed programs and projects that we will be implementing. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. Please go ahead, sir.
Yeah, ikaw na.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Honorable members of the Committee and Senate. We will be presenting, before we present this, can we present the AVP first? It's the programs and projects of the MMDA. It is a very, very short presentation, Mr.
Yeah,
Chair.
go ahead, please.
The Metropolitan Manila Development Authority is envisioning the metropolis in line with the derived long-term vision of the Metro Manila Greenprint 2030, Metro Manila for All, Green, Connected, Resilient, offering talent and opportunity, processing knowledge, and delivering services at home and abroad.
Medyo mahina. Pakilakas po.
The agency will be formulating the Metro Manila Regional Physical Framework Plan 2023 to 2040 to provide a long-term spatial development framework for Metro Manila, showing the desired direction and intensity of its growth. In pursuit of the Metro Manila vision, the agency has also been implementing various programs and projects. To address traffic congestion in Metro Manila, MMDA is adopting and continuously developing an Intelligent Transport System or ITS comprising of the design, development, and introduction of a new information technology-based traffic control system. ITS has enabled the agency to monitor the traffic situation 24/7 with 535 signalized intersections and 203 CCTVs through its nerve center called MMDA Command Center or Metro Base. To ensure the safety of road users, the MMDA provides geometric improvements and support infrastructure facilities. At present, the MMDA maintains and operates 5,133 LED solar-powered streetlights, which are more economical and environment-friendly. The MMDA also enforces traffic management policies to regulate road use and instill discipline among road users. The agency also deploys an average of 2,601
Sige. Mr. Chair, we're having technical difficulties. We are experiencing technical difficulties. While troubleshooting, maybe, Mr. Chair, we can proceed with the presentation.
Sige lang, sige lang. Oh.
Okay. Good morning. I'm about to present budget for request budget for MMDA fiscal year 2023 national subsidy. First of all, for the mandate of MMDA, pursuant to Republic Act 7924, the MMDA shall do the following functions: conform planning, monitoring, and coordinative functions, exercise regulatory and supervisory authority over the delivery of metro-wide services. Our scope of services includes development planning, solid waste disposal and management, traffic and transport management, flood control and sewerage management, urban renewal, zoning, land use planning and shelter services, health and sanitation, urban protection and pollution control, and lastly, public safety. The details of our functions are as follows. The MMDA will formulate, coordinate, and regulate implementation of medium and long-term development plans for the delivery of metro-wide services, land use and physical development within the Metro Manila, consistent with the national development strategies, plans, and priorities. We are also to prepare, coordinate, and regulate implementation of medium-term investment programs for metro-wide services, indicating sources and uses of funds for priority programs and projects, including packaging of projects and presentation to the funding institutions. Third, we coordinate and monitor implementation of such plans, programs, and projects in Metro Manila, identify bottlenecks, and adopt solutions to the problem of implementation. Fourth, we set policies, coordinate, regulate programs concerning traffic management in Metro Manila, specifically along enforcement, engineering, and education. It may enlist the support from other agencies as well. We install and administer a single ticketing system, enforce all traffic laws and regulations, and deputize agents from government and non-government organizations. And lastly, perform other related functions required to achieve the objectives of MMDA, including the delivery of services to the public in coordination with the consent of the Metro Manila local government units. Next slide. You can see in the slide is the assigned budget for MMDA. We were given the 23 budget for this year. The composition of which is it's 2.6 billion for MOE, around 60%. Capital outlay was designated at 1.6 billion or 38.2%, and personal services at 1.6%. The lion's share of the fund went to the solid waste disposal management, followed by the flood control and sewerage management. And lastly, on the third is the Metro Manila Flood Management Project into minimizing solid waste in waterways. As you can see, Mr. Chair, yung hindi lang po nandito, yung personal services and capital outlay will be explained in the succeeding slides. Kasi dito po, we will be having, yung sources po nito will be a different source po. The next slide. Comparing po yung aming National Expenditure Program for 22 and 2023, there was a minimal drop in the NEP provided for MMDA. From 4.4 billion in 2022, it was reduced to 4.3 billion, reduction of 2%. Basically, yung ating items are basically the same, except for a rate reduction in the item in component 4, in the Metro Manila Flood Management Project Component 2, which was reduced to 15%. In the next slide. Interestingly, we are shown in the slide, ito po yung comparison between what was given in the GAA for MMDA for 2021 and 2022. For 2021, we were given a 4.8 billion appropriations, and for 2022, we were given a 5.6 billion appropriation, an increase of 17.35% for that period. The lion's share, the increase went to the traffic and transport management, followed by the solid waste disposal management, 300 million. And then yung significant reduction went to the Pasig River Ferry Services and the MMDA Roadside Maintenance Program. You can also note that there were no allocations for the Health and Public Safety and Environmental Protection Office for 2022. The slide shows the estimated available resources for the fiscal year 2023 for MMDA. On the left side is the national government subsidy, the one we are proposing at 4.3 billion. But aside from that, we have other sources to fill up the gap doon sa aming kakulangan doon sa aming budget. We're expecting an ERA allotment of 649 million for next year. We are also expecting a 5% LGU contribution, 4.4 billion for next year. And then, more or less, we have 161 targeted violation fee and charges and other income that will be generated to fill in the gap kung sa kakulangan na request namin sa GAA. All in all, MMDA budget for next year would be 9.6 billion pesos. Hiwalay ko dyan yung national government yung namin na 4.3 billion pesos. I think that's the last presentation, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. We'd like to acknowledge Yusek Tina Rose Kanda, morning, and the DBM regional directors who are virtually present. And we turn it over back to DBM for the presentation on the lump sums.
Hindi matagal daw yung antigen.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. My apologies for being late. It's not my fault, it's the nurse's fault. Today I will be presenting the special purpose funds. Presented on the screen. Slide, please. Presented on the screen are the FY 2021 and 2022 program amounts of special purpose funds and the proposed program for FY 2023. The recommended program for SPFs for FY 2023 amounts to 669.23 billion pesos, which is equivalent to 12.7% of the 5.27 trillion proposed budget. This amount is higher by 46.3% or 211.9 billion than the total programmed amount for 2022, which amounts to 457.33 billion. The next slides will highlight the increase or decrease in the proposed programs for SPFs. Next slide. The FY 2023 allocations to all LGUs are for the following. The Local Government Support Fund, which includes financial assistance to LGUs or FALGU or LGSF-FA in the amount of 5 billion pesos, support to Barangay Development Program of the NTF-LCAC, which amounts to 10 billion pesos, and the Growth Equity Fund in the amount of 13.88 billion pesos. It may be recalled that in 2022, the original proposal in the NEP for NTF LCAC was 20 million per barangay based on NTF LCAC's proposal. But this was reduced to only 4 million per barangay. In FY 2023, the proposed allocation is a little over 10 million per barangay, considering the limited fiscal space. The Growth Equity Fund increased by 12.63 billion pesos to make up for the 10% decrease in the FY 2023 national tax allotment from the FY 2022 NTA. Next slide. The other 2023 allocations to GUs are the following. Number 1, allocation of BARM pursuant to the Organic Law for BARM under RA 11054. This includes the Special Development Fund of BARM amounting to 5 billion pesos, BARM's special share in taxes and fees collected in the BARM area in the amount of 4.59 billion pesos as certified by BIR. Another component of the FY 2023 allocation to LGUs is the special shares of local government units in the proceeds of national taxes, pursuant to LGC or RA 7160. These include shares of LGUs from excise taxes for locally manufactured Virginia-type cigarettes, pursuant to RA 7171 and RA number 11346. In the amount of 17 billion pesos. Burley and native tobacco products pursuant to RA 10351 and 11346 in the amount of 4.01 billion. Development and utilization of national wealth pursuant to local government circular in the total amount of 10.10 billion pesos. This is based on the certification submitted by the Revenue Collector.
Pardon the interruption, Yusek. Just wanted to recognize our minority leader, Senator Coco Pimentel, and our chair of the Committee on Labor, Senator Rafi, Committee on Migrant Workers, rather, and Energy, Senator Rafi Tulfo. Morning, Your Honors. Go ahead. Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Morning, sir. Based on certification submitted by revenue collection agencies to the DBM during the 2023 budget preparation phases. The amounts of the above cited shares are based on collections of agencies coming from the following. Nabasa ko na pala huli. In this slide and also part of the next slide yun na. In this slide and also part of the FY 2023 allocation to LGUs are shares of LGUs coming from the following. Number 1, gross income taxes paid by businesses and enterprises with economic zones amounting to 8.91 million pesos for 2020. Incremental collections from value-added tax in the amount of 2.47 billion, which correspond to the 30% of the C2's shares of the total 8.22 billion derived from difference in incremental increases of CY 2021 to 2022, CY 2020 to 2021, and value-added tax in lieu of franchise tax, which as the slide shows or reflects, has no amount because there was a certification to the effect that there were no horse race operations in 2021. Also included in the allocation to LGUs are shares of LGUs in the proceeds of fire code fees in the amount of 710.32 million pesos and the barangay officials debt benefits fund in the amount of 50 million pesos. This is based on the trend of the amounts charged for barangay officials debt benefits funds. For automatic appropriations, next slide. For automatic appropriations, the national tax allotment shares of LGUs and annual block grant of Bangsamoro autonomous regions are reflected on the screen. For FY 2023, total amount for NTA shares is 820.27 billion based on certifications issued by the BIR, BOC, and BTR. Another component of the automatic appropriation is the annual block grant of the BARM pursuant to the organic law. The total amount of FY 2023 ABG for short is 64.76 billion pesos. This is also based on certifications issued by BIR and BOC on 2020 collections. Mr. Chairman, the next slide shows budgetary support to government corporations. We are allocating or proposing to allocate 186.04 billion for BSGCs, which correspond to subsidy and equities of various GOCCs. Next slide. The top 10 GOCCs, which have the largest allocation in the proposed 2023 budget, are shown on this screen. Their requirements total to 172.9 billion, or 92.96% of the total 186 billion subsidy and equity to GOCCs. This is equivalent to 31.9 billion or 22.7% increase when compared to the 2022 GAA level. Among the key features, for PHIC, 20.2 billion or 25.3% increase in allocation for universal health care, particularly for the improvement package per Section 37 of RA 11223 or the Universal Health Care Act. Benefit package improvement includes the following: 25% increase in benefit package for all case rates. Number 2, expansion of coverage for hemodialysis to cover sessions in excess of the current 90 days to a maximum of 156 sessions. And number 3, increase in package rates under the C benefits. These are those covered by severe cases like cancer, kidney treatment, fracture, among others. Number 2, for NIA, the 9.4 billion or 29.8% increase refers to higher allocation for communal irrigation systems, which need to be completed by NIA before its devolution to LGUs, and also for funding of national irrigation systems. For NFA, the 5 billion or 71.4% increase pertains to the remaining 6 days of the 15-day minimum buffer stock requirement, which was previously charged to the corporate income of NFA in 2022. For PFDA, 754 million or 17.5% increase pertains to higher funding requirements for the construction and rehabilitation of fish ports under the Fisheries Infrastructure Development Program based on the 2023 requirements per board-approved Certificate of Budget Inclusion. For BCDA, the significant increase is largely attributed to the requirements for ongoing projects under the military replication projects. NHA, as well as PHC, registered a decrease, although part of the top 10 GOCCs, because of the CCAs that were included in the 2022 level. The proposed budget for the SBC and PCIC were retained at 2022 net. Mr. Chairman, we are proposing 13 billion for the contingent fund, which is used for the funding requirements of new or urgent activities and projects of national government, GOCCs and LGUs, that need to be implemented or paid during the year. The increase in the proposed level in 2023 is simply the restoration of the 2022 NEP level. As of August 31 this year, releases from the contingent fund amounts to 1.84 billion pesos, 352 million of which is charged against the GAA and 1.48 billion from the 2021 continuing appropriations, thereby leaving a balance of 6.81 billion for the contingent funds for this year. Among the significant releases against the contingent fund are releases to DOH pertaining to the special risk allowance of private and non-plantilla government health workers, as well as election-related expenses of PNP in the amount of 352.9 million pesos. Another special purpose fund in the 2023 budget corresponds to the MPBF, or the Miscellaneous Personal Benefits Fund, which is being used to cover requirements in authorized salaries and associated benefits of national government employees who are still in the active service. This fund will also support the grant of performance-based bonuses for agencies and employees who meet or surpass their targets. The proposed MPBF for 2023 will be higher by 56.32 billion pesos as compared with the FY 2022 level of 27.72 billion. It may be recalled that the 2022 net level of the MPBF was significantly reduced by 10.48 billion from 38.2 to 27.7 billion pesos. Thus, we anticipate that PS charges which could not be accommodated within this year's MPBF will have to slide in 2023. These charges would include performance-based benefit payments, PS deficiencies as a result of the creation of the National Commission on Senior Citizens and the Department of Migrant Workers, as well as the continuing hiring and filling up of vacant positions. Mr. Chair, we are also proposing an amount for the National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Fund. For 2023, we are proposing 31 billion pesos, or an increase of 11 billion pesos from the 20 billion level in 2022. The increase is due to the following: 10 billion to cover the funding gap in the rehabilitation and recovery programs as a result of Typhoon Odette. 1 billion proposed to be allotted for the Marawi Siege Victims Compensation Fund per RA number 11696. The NDRIM-F shall be used for the following activities. Number 1, aid relief rehabilitation services to communities, areas affected by calamities, including training of personnel and other pre-disaster activities. This amounts to 12.9 billion pesos. Repair and reconstruction of permanent structures, including capital expenditure for pre-disaster operations, rehabilitation, and other related activities in the amount of 17.1 billion pesos. And the Marawi Recovery, Rehabilitation, and Reconstruction Program amounting to 1 billion. For this year, out of the 20.7 billion available appropriations for NDRIM-F, the DBM has already released a total of 10.24 billion to various agencies. This includes 9.48 billion for the regular NDRIM-F program and 6.16 billion for the replenishment of quick response funds, which are included in the various agencies' budgets. The balance of NDRIM-F as of August 31, 2022 stands at 10.46 billion pesos. We go to the last special purpose fund, which we classify as a special purpose fund, Mr. Chair, which is for the unprogrammed appropriations. The unprogrammed appropriations are standby appropriations authorized under the annual GAA, which may be availed of upon the occurrence of the following conditions. Letter A, excess revenue collections in any of the identified non-tax revenue sources from its corresponding revenue collection target as reflected in the BESF. Letter B, new revenue collections or those arising from new tax or non-tax sources which are not part of nor included in the original revenue sources under the BESF. And finally, approved loans or for foreign assisted projects. For FY 2023, we are proposing that the unprogrammed appropriations be allocated 588.2 billion pesos, comprising an increase of 133.7%, 336.5 billion pesos from its 2022 level. The bulk of the increase in the proposed 2023 UA corresponds to support to foreign assisted project. This covers mainly the DOTR's loan proceeds for its rail transportation projects, which include the North-South Commuter Railway Project, the Subway Project, the PNR South Commuter Railway, the Mindanao, the Long Haul, PNR South Long Haul, and the Mindanao Railway Project. Second substantial allocation goes to the support to infrastructure projects and social programs, which we call SIP-SIP for short. This accounts for 25.5% the 2023 unprogrammed allocation, 149.7 billion pesos. We wish to emphasize, Mr. Chair, that the SIP-SIP corresponds to the corresponds to projects which at this point has not been identified. Next slide. Presented on this slide is the status of releases from the unprogrammed fund as of August 31, 2022. Out of the 251.64 billion pesos, total allotments released to various implementing agencies amount to 178.94 billion pesos. This includes the 139.22 billion pesos support to foreign assisted projects. That ends our presentation, Mr. Chairman, for the special purpose funds.
You mentioned that you released, how much was that, the last slide? 139 to foreign assisted?
Yes,
That's because the loan proceeds became available. Yun ba yun?
Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thanks. Senator Nancy, Vice Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning po sa DBM family. Yusek Kanta, pwede balikan lang ho natin yung slide dun sa MTF-LCAC.
Anong slide number?
Hindi ko alam.
Hindi mo lang.
Kasi di ba yung MTF-LCAC technically on its third year already? Tama po ba? And then, na-review na ho ba natin kung ano na nangyari dun sa 21 and I guess a portion of the 2022 allocation? Oh, for example, I would assume dapat yung mga, for example, school building or farm-to-market roads may completed na.
Ma'am, wala pa daw hong monitoring for the previous releases for NTF-LCAC.
That's even for the 2021 projects? For the 2020 rather?
2021 pa lang yung...
Can we rewind? How much did we release? Parang 16, no? 16B was released in 2020. Tama ba?
2020.
Or program is 16. I don't know how much was released of the 16 program.
Yan yung
2020.
2020 to?
20. O ba 2020? Wala. Maliit lang. Okay.
1.8? Ha? 2020? Ano ba talaga?
I have a sheet here which says 3.2 ang na-complete worth of projects. Tama ba? Of the 16.4 programmed, yeah, for 2021.
16 billion ang program sa 5.8 lang ang release mo.
Ito, Nancy. Binigay sa akin.
Ha? Kaya nga, ito na release. Out of the 16 billion? Yun na? What, 2021.3. So lang release. So,
And actually, Mr. Chairman, supposed to be dapat for 2022, dapat may nasimulan na project. Yan, di ba?
2021, magkano?
Well, yun nga, let's start siguro for the status of the fund releases for 21 and 22 para medyo maayos yung presentation.
Okay.
How
Ma'am,
much was programmed, how much was released.
for 2020, Mr. Chairman, 1.8 billion was released for NTF-LCAC. This covers various agencies. We did not have a special purpose fund for
2020.
Yes, for
Yeah.
NTF-LCAC.
But that was, what was the total allocation for NTF-LCAC then?
2021.
2021 siya lumaki, di ba?
Kasi sa 2021, Mr. Chairman, nagkaroon ng support to barangay development.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh.
For 2021, Mr. Chairman, we already have an amount of 19.24 billion for total releases for the whole. This includes 16.4 for the special purpose funds, and the rest would be implementing agencies, yes.
So agencies, we can ask them during their budgets, no? Just give us a detailing of which agencies.
Yes, Mr.
I think there's DILG, there's AFP, among others, no? Pero itong 16.4, could you give us a report on that, please?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we'll just submit.
Actually, Mr. Chairman, based on this document, out of the 2021 release, which total amount na you seconded, di ba? You mentioned 16 billion. Yung ongoing is 2.9 billion. Completed is 3.2 billion. So, parang di 50% of the 16 billion, parang in limbo pa yung projects.
Well,
Diba?
what
Parang-
about the 3.2? Do you have a report on that completed the projects? Or it's just a...
For the completed project.
Siyempre, gusto natin malaman na totoo nga yan kasi nga marami nagdududa dating ano. There's no report. How do you, you're the budgetary experts, how do you judge that?
You know, Mr. Chair, how would you justify the additional 10 billion for next year when we don't even know what's going on with this project?
Please speak to the mic, Yusek Tina.
The justification for the additional amounts will correspond to the cleared barangays. So we allocated it based on the representation of NTF-LCAC, that the amount would be required for, I think, initially 20 million pesos, and then it was cut to 4 million. However, we leave it to,
10B was the proposal of
Yes,
NTF-LCAC.
yes,
So you did not do what you normally do with the other agencies.
no, we did, Mr. Chairman, because they had more cleared barangays that they identified.
So they asked for more than 10B.
Yes, but we were saying that perhaps you have to concentrate on the ongoing projects under the cleared barangays that have been recently identified.
Yeah.
Siguro, Mr. Chairman, can we ask DBM to submit to the committee yung lists of beneficiaries for the 10 billion?
Yes. Yes, yes. Yes, Mr. Chair.
Because parang I think ang nasubmit lang, Mr. Chairman, is yung area. I remember in the previous years, you submit pati yung barangay kung
It's,
saan.
it's included in the submission, Madam Chair, but the projects itself are not included.
Not yet.
Yes,
I-
but it's
may-
that the barangays are identified.
Maybe during the plenary deliberation, you could, before the plenary deliberation, you could submit. Because if I remember it correctly, yung submissions nyo, nakasulat doon kung farm to market,
Yeah, when will they identify the projects?
school building.
When are the projects identified?
Unfortunately, Madam Chair, the projects are identified only during implementation phase.
Yun ang
during
mahirap kasi
execution.
isn't that a form of pork barrel? That's frowned upon based on the Supreme Court.
Ano parang hindi. Kasi if I remember it right, no, when I asked for a
They
copy,
submitted
they submitted na parang this yung 20 million, 5 million for school, 2 million for road. So parang naka-breakdown yung 20M kung sa
Yes,
nila.
pero-
That's only an indicative menu.
Yes,
It's not strictly followed.
Yes, correct.
In the end, we just made a menu that they can choose from. But I see the minority leader who's really a much better lawyer than I am. He's agreeing that that's a pork barrel based on the definition of the Supreme Court. Because, when you pass the GAA, there must be an identification of projects as much as possible.
Level of
diba?
detail.
Unless the contingency has not arisen in the case of the contingency fund and other special purpose funds. So, is there no way to to improve the program in that sense from a budgetary standpoint? Parang the standards you apply to different funds, di ba dapat mag-apply din sa kanila?
We gave the NTF-LCAC, I think, some leeway in the identification of the projects, especially because of the intent, Mr. Chairman, of the fund. However, we leave it to the discretion and wisdom of the committee if certain adjustments in the amounts as well as the allocation should be done for the.
Well, we also want to support the program, USEC, no? Pero yun nga, let's apply the same standards across the board. And if you could give us as detailed a report as possible on the implementation of the programs, we would appreciate it. I'm sure our colleagues, marami na, graduate na sila Senator Drilon, but I'm sure our colleagues who remain here will also be as assiduous in pursuing the implementation of the program. Yeah, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, yung sa same menu, like if I remember it right, di ba parang for school buildings may cap na 5 million. Tapos merong portion pa doon na soft, di ba? Yung like they can give burial assistance. Parang may ganun.
Wala daw pong soft, puro hard projects lang ang nakapasok.
So walang mga burial assistance, mga ganyan-ganyan. Okay. Okay. Sige. And then, dun sa slide nyo naman, well, I think hindi nyo naman dinitalya. Dun sa pension and gratuity fund. For 2021, yung item number 2, for payment of retirement and terminal leave benefits. For 2021, 21 billion ho yung nasa GAA. And then for 2022, yung nasa NEP was 66 billion. And then kinat ho ng Congress, so sa GAA naging 17 billion. But for 2023, sa NEP nyo ho, naging 124 billion. Can you please
Yes.
tell us why the surge in the amount?
Yes, Madam Chair. There were years when increases in the civilian employees, kasi ma'am where military and uniform personnel benefits or military and uniform personnel benefits. Ano ba? Sorry. Where military and uniform personnel are concerned, their benefits are indexed to active military salaries. But there were years where we only provided 6 months. So I think there were 4 years during a span of 2010 to 2016 where only half of the year was provided to military and uniform. So they petitioned DBM and even up to the DOJ that they should be entitled to the 6 months from January to June. And so that is what we are paying at the moment.
In those years, in other words, you incurred a deficit that you're now only now paying off.
Yes, arrearages.
Should I get a report on that? Because
Yes.
we're looking at also, as you know, we're looking at reforming also the system of
Yes, Mr. Chair.
pensions. Yeah, because that's been pending for a number of years. As even during the Aquino administration, there was an attempt to already reform the indexation, as you know. No?
There is a report, Mr. Chair, and also there is also a process where the Commission on Audit goes over all these claims from military and uniform personnel.
Yeah, we're not questioning that, Yusek. What we're saying is we need perspective
Yes, Mr.
of
Chair.
what's been happening for the last decades to the MUP, so we can decide. Basically, we want to see the growth of the fund requirement because the subsidies, the national government subsidy, has been growing. I don't know if the right word is exponentially, no, but it's been growing. So, and the urgency has also grown
Yes, Mr. Chair.
as you know. No? So please help us with that respect.
Yes,
And
Mr.
the thing is, it was referred to the Committee on Defense
Yes.
in the
And,
previous
as a
conference.
heads up, Mr. Chair, when we looked at the pension and pension benefits, most of the claimants for pensions are actually survivors already, surviving spouse and children.
Yes, yes. That's why I think that the military also appreciates the need for the reform because they know that in the future, you know, if this continues, then it's a promise we can no longer deliver on. Diba? So I think they realize that that's the reality. That's why they're also initially, after the initial opposition, there is a greater openness to reform now. Go ahead.
Last question na lang, Mr. Chairman, for Sec. Amina. Noong 2017 po, yung CSC, COA, and DBM issued Joint Circular Number 1, which provided the rules and regulations regarding the engagement of contract of service and job order workers in the government. So nagkaroon ho yan ng transitional period up to December 31, 2018. And then it was extended twice until the end of this year. Are we planning to extend it for another year? And ano na ho yung status dun sa transition natin na eventually mawawala na yung job orders or ma-minimize na yung job orders tsaka yung mga contractuals?
Yes, ma'am, Mr. Chair. Correct po yan, no? But I was told that majority of the departments are requesting for another extension of the period of engagement of COS and GO workers for another 2 years. So that's until December 31, 2024, in order for them to have ample time to absorb their existing qualified GO and COS as necessary.
But Sec, meron ba tayo talagang specific program on or programs on how to shift? Because apparently, in spite of the circular, nadagdagan pa ho yung JO tsaka yung COS natin. When technically, dapat we're already winding down.
I-feel ng contractor.
Oo, no. Sa special provisions, general provisions, under the budget po, NEP, no? There's a provision sa general provisions po that we request the agencies to fill yung mga positions po for contractual.
Yes, ma'am, to observe.
To absorb po yung mga JO nila. And I think po our bureau po is already engaging with Civil Service Commission and COA to fix po the problem. As mentioned po previously, I think most of the government workers po who wants to enter cannot get the positions, at least yung higher position po or during the entry level because they lack po the qualifications.
Okay. Yun na lang po, Mr. Chairman. And last na lang, din sa, kasi you mentioned yung rightsizing, are we doing a study on how to go about it or may preliminaries na ba tayo for this? 'Cause I think connected din siya doon sa JO and COS.
Yes po, we have a preliminary study po on certain areas po, and then we're engaging din po PIDS for the second part po. I think it will be done by first quarter of next year. So more or less, yun po yung study nung anong agencies po which we should merge or abolish.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Vice Chair Binay. What's the timeline, Secretary, for the rightsizing?
Hopefully po we
6
can
6 years.
no naman po, if you pass it po, you will give us I think authority for 1 year to review.
Thank you, Vice Chair Binay. We'll go to Minority Leader, Senator Coco.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Back to rightsizing kasi yun ang last topic natin. If we pass it, referring to a law, to give you 1 year to review, ba't nila i-review kahit wala yung law?
You will give, the law po kasi will give us the authority, the DBM and the Office of the President and Civil Service to to study po and give recommendation po kung ano po yung mga departments that we can actually abolish, merge, and
Not do it out of your own initiative. Why do you need the law? Para may funding pa yung effort na yan? I think you need the law to authorize somebody, maybe the president, to do something. Disagree ako ron sa authorizing, delegating the power to somebody. Pero yung statement yung secretary na you need the law so that you have 1 year to review. Just do it. Pusa. Review. Review, submit recommendations. Ano yun? Oh, why do you need the law?
Already starting, pero yung pag-separate ng tao, pag-downsize, na actual implementation pa niya.
Sir, Mr. Chair, Madam Chair, we are actually starting with the study po. We have a couple of recommendations already and we will present it actually to the Office of the President. But then po, kasi kailangan po may batas po yata, may cover yung mga tao pong masiseparate in case po.
Correct. No, kaya nga, no rightsizing, no termination, separation will happen. But it's pursuant to a plan. There must be a plan. So do not wait for the law to have a plan. Come up with a plan. Whatever plan you give to the president, you share with your legislators. Kasi may legislators na iba ang way of thinking. We will not delegate, but we may adopt the plan by law. I hope you get this. Mas maganda, mas matibay pa ngayon legally speaking eh. Because it's not a delegation of a power to reorganize the government, but it's now the Congress reorganizing the government. Mas matibay yun legally speaking. So, ganun po yun. But, you know, ang hirap mag-delegate ng he will identify what agencies he will collapse, ganun. So, will we do it? We will not do that. We will not do that. Ito, definitely to Senate, hindi papayag na ganun. Pero, to identify the agencies, posible. To delegate, identify, gawin ng presidente. Pero ako, I will still say, let's do it ourselves through law. Lalo na yung mga ahensyang naka-law, treated by law, di ba? I mean, okay, so I hope you get my point. And tinelegraph ko na yung stand ko dyan sa issue na yan. So, which is tama naman yun, mas klaro yun. Yung iba kasi dun, Mr. Chairman, created by law, di ba? Or by an executive issuance with the force of law. So, mabuti na rin yung ganon. Sige. So anyway, that's out of the way na. So, yep.
We'll consider your recommendation po, sir.
Oh, pero
Kaya mas mabilis po.
Pero yung ideas ninyo, naman 1 year from now may bigay kasi 1 year ang review, di ba? Tuloy nyo na, I'm sure. Tsaka galing kay Secretary Joke mo itong idea na to 6 years ago eh. Oh, dapat meron na tayo idea dyan lang. Actually, dyan ako na-disappoint sa idea na yan. Pagdating naman, we ask the details, wala, it's delegation of power ang habol. Something is wrong. Something is wrong because whoever thought of that brilliant idea does not have any idea what he or she will do once the power is given. Di ba? So, yun, it's the request of power, yun ang problema. So, ano natin yan? Kasi ako talaga, even if Congress is willing to give up that power, sasabihin ko sa mga kasama ko, wag. That power is better exercised by us. Kasi may full and free debate, may identification, ayan. Di ba? So, cover the media. Okay, so, ngayon tayo rito sa NTF LCAP. Kasi topic ni Nancy, magandang point. Namulat niya yung mata ko tungkol sa issue na ito eh. In effect, the NTF LCAP funds are left with DBM. You wait for something, you wait for a communication from the council ba yun? Tama ba yun? Tignan niyo lang ko, just explain to. So the funds, once approved by Congress, the funds are parang lodged with DBM. You wait for a communication from a certain body. It must be the council of the NTF LCAP. And then, pursuant to the communication, you now release the you now release amounts chargeable to that fund to the recipients or beneficiaries identified through that communication. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Really, ganon.
Release yan, di ba? May list siya.
Basically, ganun nga. So, parang parang na rin kayo
Pero may list.
naging two hats kayo. Naging two hats. You're not only... Ako dati kasi talaga nagtaka ako, how come? Sabi ko, bakit ka sa Pilipinas, departamento ang nagmamanage ng budget natin? Ayun doon sa United States, hindi yata Well, may departamento ba sila? But now that, I encounter the complexities in the budget process. I mean, agree ako, there must be a department or a big body specializing in the crafting, designing, and management of our budget. But then you release amounts, or you authorize the release of amounts pursuant to the budget through the departments and other agencies implementing the budget. So ito bang NTF-LCAP, because it's a new way of thinking daw, whole of government approach to address the insurgency problem at the local level. Is this such a new thing that the department became the department? Not only for budget and management, yung purpose natin kanina, which is to deal with the complexities of the budget. But you're now acting as the department for the LCAC.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Senator, we do not act as the department. We follow the guidelines, the menu, and the listing of the barangays that are included in the General Appropriations Act. And that's what we conform or comply with.
Okay, so there are details. Okay, so at least na-clarify ako. The details are not found in the GAA.
Special provision.
Where is it found?
It's in the special provisions, Mr. Chair.
Under the allocation to local government units.
Yes.
Nandun. So, mahaba na special provision yun.
This is for the...
Mahaba yun. You really identify the barangay, what type of the project, and the amount. And then kung isuma total yung column ng amount, it will be the same amount as the amount for support to barangay.
Mr. Chair, Your Honor.
Kasi tignan nyo sa 2020.
The list itself is included in the annex of the GAA. The special provision just provides...
With your permission, Your Honor, I just want to acknowledge the former chair of this committee, the Senate President Pro Tem, Senator Lauren Legarda.
Mr. Chair, we welcome the DBM family, especially our favorite, your newly confirmed Secretary, Amena.
2020. Tama yung sagot, Mr. Chairman. Next. Tama, okay. Can we refer to that annex in the 2022? How is it called? Annex A, B, C? Ano ba tawag natin dyan?
It's an attachment to the volumes that we submit to Congress and the Senate. Mr. Chair, Your Honor.
Sige, okay, so...
List of beneficiaries of the support to the Barangay Development Program of the National Task Force to end. Ganun siya. Yeah. That's part of the GAA. Yeah.
The permission, Minority Floor Leader. With your permission, hindi, kailan naman na-release niya for 2022?
So of the 16 billion.
2.2.
We'd like to acknowledge one of the committee vice chair, Senator Grace Poe. Good morning, ma'am.
Sorry.
Of the program 5.264 program budget, tama? 89.9% has been released. The balance to date for submission is 588 million.
Thank you.
Follow up, of the amount released, how much was disbursed and actually completed na yung projects?
Wala tayong
But the NTFL cap being the monitoring body can provide.
There's no update and report yet, Mr. Chair, Madam Chair.
The gentleman relaying the information to you.
Director Aris, he was the one previously in charge of local government.
Is with the DBM or is
It's with the DBM po.
Okay. So NTFL CAC has not, but you've communicated the need to submit a report naman. Oh,
Yes, Mr. Chair.
okay. Yes. Thank you, Minority Leader.
Ang sabi ng ating 2022, we use the 2022 as the model. Itong current years, ano. Ang sabi nyo lang sa special, ano ba tawag dito? Special provisions, no? Provided that each cleared barangay shall be allocated with an amount not exceeding 20 million pesos to be used for the following. So, strict naman yung usage niya, pero ceiling amount siya. Ceiling. But as to the details on from 1 peso to 20 million amount, kasi yun yung baling range, it will be the council which will give the instructions. Is that correct?
Please answer, DBM. Please answer.
Walang less than, Mr. Chair. It's just 4 million per barangay.
Ano, ma'am?
It's,
Ang release nyo is not less than 4.
wala pong classification na not less than. It's 4 million allocation per barangay.
For the 2023?
The 2022.
For the 2022?
Sa actual nila daw, hindi sila nagre-release.
Hindi, for 2023. 2023.
Aris,
2023.
Hindi kasi itong okay ba? There's a President's veto message pala dito. Ano kaya itong ginawa niyo rito? Conditional implement. Can you explain? Kayo palang expert ng budget. Page 749 this year, 2020. 749, special provision number 3. Gusto basahin ko eh. Support to the Barangay Development Program of the National Task Force to End Local Communist Armed Conflict. The amount of 5,624,000,000 pesos, which is tama naman, that's the cut amount eh. Tama? Appropriated herein shall be used for the implementation of various support programs of the National Task Force to End Local Communist Armed Conflict, NTFL-CAP, for the 1,406 cleared barangays as listed in the herein attached summary and certified by the NTFL-CAP, provided that each cleared barangay shall be allocated with an amount not exceeding 20 million pesos to be used for the following projects: farm to market road, school building, water and sanitation system, health stations, and electrification. Release of funds shall be subject to the guidelines to be issued by the DBM in coordination with the NTFL-CAC. Ang point ko ng ceiling, nag-release kayo ng 4 million, you did not violate the ceiling. Basta tama ba itong, there was a ceiling na
Yes,
20.
Yes.
If in reality you gave 4 million, no violation kasi ceiling yun.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Pero yung kaya nga meron na tayong mga details ngayon, ang mini-measure na lang natin ito sa anong tawag mo doon, budgets of barrel. Is there
I think it was in response to what the members, Your Honor, wanted. You know, yourself, Senator Julan, Senator Binay, we put it na in the budget, in line item natin. In the same way, Senator Lacson would complain about the DPWH. We insisted that there'd be no lump sums and things be itemized, Your Honor. So that's the result also of our legislative discussions, Your Honor.
Yeah, so the compliance with the details, number one, as to where is the annex. Yeah, di ba? It's the annex. But as to amount, the special provisions only provide a ceiling. Yan po ang klaro Yan ang klaro. So, sa implementation, pwedeng iba-iba at
May menu.
may minimum. Pero doon pupunta yung amount. Pero yung amount iba-iba kasi it's a ceiling. Ngayon, whether or not, because the amount finally destined to that particular barangay is a post-enactment determination. Because ang rules mo, the law, just gave you the ceiling. Okay? Basta pag-aaralan pa rin namin po yan. Basta yung final amount is a post-enactment determination through the intervention of the council. Okay. Ngayon, may tanong na lang ako. Do we have any other fund appropriation in the budget which behaves this way, the same way as the NTF-LCAC fund? In the sense that the details or not all the details, not complete details have been identified.
Yes, Mr. Chair, it's the LGSF-FA. And contingent fund, miscellaneous, PGF, SIP.
Kaya nga, doon nga ako nakatisa. Pinangalan nyo talaga yan ng SIPSIP para makuha yung atensyon namin, di ba? Ano Mr. Chairman, talagang pinangalan nila yun para makuha atensyon natin at magtanong tayo tungkol doon. Tama yan, tama yung sagot. I was expecting na kasama talaga yan. Pag hindi mo sinama sa sagot mo yun, talagang tatanungin ko bakit hindi mo sinama eh.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
Mr. Chair, Your Honor.
Could you tell what the SIP program is? Because Senator Legarda was not here when you did your presentation earlier. So please explain this brilliantly named new program.
No, it's not, Mr. Chair, Your Honor. SIP, we call it SIP for short. It's support to infrastructure and social programs under the unprogrammed. In fairness to this fund, it was created way back during the time of PGMA, when the resources were tight and the appropriations were not always available.
SIP na yung pangalan nun?
Naging SIP na huli.
Okay. So nabuhay ulit yung SIP.
Every year. It's good to ask because I don't think it was in your presentation that it was dated PGMA's time. And it's not a newly created fund under this administration, under this new secretary. Just to make it clear, not
Yes.
even under President Duterte.
Yes.
It was President Arroyo's time yet. Okay, it's good to ask so that it's taken into context because we are seen worldwide and it might be misunderstood that your newly confirmed secretary or this new group has a SIP fund. It does not sound good.
Yes,
May I make a manifestation, Mr. Chair, that the communications experts in DBM change the acronym of this important fund because it's a special infrastructure fund and for socio-economic needs.
Mas maliit siya nung panahon ni GMA.
That's so
So palitan niyo daw yung SIP, gawin yung higop kasi malaki na daw ngayon. Higop na daw hindi na SIP.
But seriously speaking, it's very important. Special infrastructure, socio-economic. Mahalaga yan sa unprogrammed. Ibahin lang nyo yung acronym. We can be more creative so that there's no misunderstanding also. Kaya nyo yan. Sige.
Sige, ma'am.
Yeah, back to the minority leaders this time. Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you. Anyway, kahit ibang pangalan nyo dyan, kahit gawin yung multiple of 9 ang name ng project na yan, may tatanong din pa naman ako dyan eh. Talaga naman tatanungin ko yan kahit anong name na madam. Kahit multiple of 9 pa ang pangalan nito. Anyway, ganito. Itong unprogrammed appropriations, just for our understanding, sabi nyo there will be 3 conditions. Standby funds to. 3 conditions before you fund the appropriations therein. Historically, kunyari, hindi pa naman tapos ng 2022, let's go back to 2021. Historically, Kunyari, we had 135 billion in standby funds in a program appropriations. How much and which ones were actually funded? Because one of the three conditions were met.
Mr. Chair, Your Honor, for 2021, for instance, we released 122 billion out of the 176. It's easier to identify loan proceeds available rather than excess revenues, because the excess revenues would probably be amounting from 30 billion to 50 billion. These are for non-tax revenues, of course, and as identified under the BESF. So medyo hindi po ma-identify yung sa non-tax. Pero yung sa loan proceeds, so we can anticipate how much is going to enter in the given year.
Well, ma'am, so 176 billion nga pala. So for fiscal year 2021. And you're telling us 122 billion of this were actually funded and therefore released. So just look at fiscal year 2021. Which ones po ang remained unfunded? Parang, di ba, parang unimplemented siya, di ba? Standby fund never activated. Which ones po doon para lang we have an idea? Kasi paulit-ulit yung ibang entries eh.
Yes. On the top of my head is probably the amount that we owe Stratcom, which is 2 billion a year. Then Nampaday property is also part of it. We don't fund. We are not able to fund.
We are not able to fund because
Yes.
we are not able to A, B, or C. You know? Yung tatlong, hindi ko memorize yung basta alam ko tatlo. That's why it appears again in the following year's budget, but mali kami to just simply add it, no? Because it doesn't mean kunyari si payment of arrears, LTO, IT service, 2 billion 2021, 2 billion 2022, 2 billion 2023. Ang normal reaction ko, oops, no, makaka 6 billion na ito. That's not correct, right?
Yes.
Yusek?
Yes, Mr. Chair, Your Honor.
So to find out the actual releases to charge to payment of arrears to LTO IT service, which goes to one entity, where do we get that information as to magkano na talaga actually na-release sa kanila?
We provide a report to the committees on finance and appropriation as well as the Senate President for quarterly report on releases, Mr. Chair, Your Honor.
So if I were to ask now, magkano na na-release, alam nyo?
For 2022,
And over the years? Kasi,
we have a time series on that.
for
2022, we released 178.9, and the bulk of this corresponds to the loan proceeds of the OTR rail projects. Your Honor, Mr. Chair.
Hindi.
For 2022.
Kaya rail proceeds of the rail loan proceeds of the DOTR, you used to pay the unprogrammed appropriation of payment of arrears of LTO IT service?
No, Mr. Chair, just to segregate, the amount for the LTO is triggered by the excess revenue. But for the DOTR, this is the availability of loan proceeds. We had no option but to charge it against the unprogrammed because the loan proceeds were transferred to the unprogrammed appropriation.
Oo, pero pagkaintindi ko, dito naman siya doon sa 380, doon siya sa support to foreign assisted projects eh.
Yun po,
Which is in 2021, 9.5 B naman for that amount, 17.7 this year, and 380 billion for next year. So,
yes, 380 for 2023, Your Honor, Mr. Chair.
kaya unprogrammed nga siya, so DOTR borrows for that. Ngayon, I was talking about payment of arrears to LTO IT service.
So it's a different item, Mr. Chair. The LTO account to Stratcom is a different
Not
item.
linked to a loan, just to clarify.
It's not linked to the DOTR.
Hindi, pero yun yung, napasok tayo, Mr. Chairman, nga, because in answer to my question po, parang,
Question, Your Honor.
just that random lang ito, how much have we paid? Because this has been appearing
Yeah.
year after year after year.
Don't you-
Mali.
I think what Senator Pimentel is after, is the minority leader, is that he wants to see the pattern, what is being funded, what is not. Am I correct? So can you just submit a report that kind
Sige.
of takes into account the last few years that will show, the development, or give us some perspective on the funding of the unprogrammed?
Because I want to look at the percentage, may amount kasi, may bottom line yung total amount for unprogrammed appropriations. We have 3 conditions, and then over the years, kunyari, nakaka 70% releases tayo. Sabihin, more or less, we are able to comply with the three conditions and able to release the unprogrammed appropriations. Ngayon, pagdating po doon sa SIP-SIP, ano po ito? Sabi nyo kanina, details have not been identified. So, these are even more lacking in details compared to NTF-LCAC, which is an annex.
Mr. Chair, anong tawag ko dito? Social support to infrastructure projects is really just a standby fund as compared to the NTF-LCAC, which is part of the program. Just to situate the importance of having a standby that is lump sum. When the pandemic hit in 2020, we did not have sufficient funds to fund our isolation facilities and whatever requirements that the pandemic gave us. So we had to resort to using this sort of lump sum amount under the unprogrammed appropriation for the purpose. And in fact, the procurement of vaccines and booster shots for 2023 was included here. And for the past years, it was also classified under the SIP-SIP.
Different is this from contingent fund?
The contingent fund, Your Honor, Mr. Chair, is a programmed amount. So it is not dependent on the compliance or the triggers that are required for the unprogrammed appropriations.
Kaya nga, but the contingencies covered by both amounts are the same, except that ubusin mo muna si contingency fund and then may standby ka. Is that it?
Yes, Mr. Chair, Your Honor, that's what is what we did, what we usually do. We really charge it to the contingent first.
Okay. Sige, anyway, conceptually kasi contingent fund ang gamit nyo sa programmed amount. Pero sabi mo may standby yan si contingency fund pero iba ang name na binigay ninyo. But historically speaking, we are releasing funds from the unprogrammed because we generate the ABC conditions. Did you consciously do that? Why not a contingency fund under meron din entry sa DOTR hinati nila meron silang program fund and unprogrammed fund. So can theoretically from the budget experts para lang ma-educate niyo po ako. Theoretically, can we budget contingency fund may part siyang program, may part siyang unprogrammed?
Mr. Chair, theoretically, there is nothing wrong with it. But we consider the contingent fund as a sort of a fund that is for unexpected and new and urgent. And it requires the approval also of the President. So, very seldom namin, parang last resort na po rin namin ginagamit ang contingent fund because we know it's a lump sum. So, we try to avoid having lump sums under the program of the budget, Your Honor, Mr. Chair.
Okay, talagang kailangan natin ng department talaga ng DBM to teach us. You try to avoid lump sums in the program part of the budget. Do you also try it in the unprogrammed part of the budget? Try to avoid it?
As much as possible, Your Honor, we really do not want to have lump sums because we are under the magnifying glass of international public finance practitioners. And it does not look good if we really have substantial amounts for the unprogrammed as well as the programmed amount, if it is lump sums. But at this point, Mr. Chair, Your Honor, with the pandemic and the unexpectedness of how much we can actually generate as revenues, we were forced to include, for instance, loan proceeds requirements of DOTR under the unprogrammed appropriations. It was very substantial. 380 billion could not be accommodated. So that's the reason why. But as a public finance manager, Your Honor, Mr. Chair, I would agree with you, Mr. Chair, that as much as possible, we don't want to have special purpose funds or even lump sums in the various agencies.
Kasi ma'am, ganito, Mr. Chairman, ano na lang, last point na lang, sa pang-plenary na lang yung iba kasi marami nakahintay. Kasi nung tinanong ko yung DOTR sa 380 billion nila, what are the details? Sagot sila eh. In-enumerate nga namin, nakasagot sila sa details nila. And I will check, I'm sure naka-annex yun. But this particular one, this SIPSI program, there are no details or annex that we can show. Okay, so para sa klaro yun. And who administers this fund? At least pag nung tinanong ko yung DTR, 380 billion, kayo mag-administer yan. Sabi nila, yes. Dito po, sino po mag-administer ng fund na ito? Let us assume that one of the three conditions are met and the amount is there.
Kanino ka sisip-sip para ma-access mo yung
Para
fund?
ma-access mo yung fund.
Presidente sa OP.
Mr. Chair, Your Honor, DBM is actually administering the fund. But once it is approved, if the purpose is approved by the President, then that's the only time that DBM releases it. And after that, subsequent to that, the one who administers it would be the agency which is implementing the project.
Sige, one final observation, Mr. Chairman. As of the moment, hindi pa naman natin pinapasa, parang kulang sa detalye. That's my personal opinion. It lacks details. And in the presentation yata, admittedly, we can quote you, the details of which had not been identified. Sina na mismo nag-volunteer pa ng information. So, marami pa po ako sanang gustong tanungin, but time is limited.
We can have a second round, Minority Leader.
Andun si Senator Tulfo, tinitignan ko yung mukha niya, mukhang gutom na rin to. Kaya,
Tatanong ko mukhang magtatanong.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for the first round.
Thank you, Minority Leader. Ako, I can understand the need for flexibility, pero tama si Senator Pimentel, as much as possible, maybe including the following, yung binanggit yung project, so we can place it there. Parang hindi masyadong, you yourself said, as a public finance practice, it's better to specify. So the next to ask is Senator Raffy Tulfo, sir. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Correct me if I'm wrong, if I heard it right. Sabi po ni Yusek Tina Rose, we do not act as God. Did you say that? Did I hear it right? Parang narinig ko ata. O maling pagkarinig ko. Sabi mo kanina na sa tanong na
Parang wala po akong sinabi.
parang meron ako narinig eh.
Parang wala po akong
Parang wala?
huwad na
So, ibig sabihin, naguni-guni lang ako siguro. I don't know. Kaya nga, sinulat ko agad eh. Naka-jot down. But anyway, what is your policy in reducing proposed budget in a certain department when in fact you do not have an expertise on the aspect of governance of that particular department? Halimbawa po sa Judiciary at saka sa Department of Migrant Workers. Do you have experts that gives you guidance bago kayo mag-slash ng proposed budget ng isang departamento? Bukod po dun sa mga lumalapit sa inyo at nagpresent po ng kanilang proposed budget.
Mr. Chair, Your Honor, when a budget is proposed to DBM, when an agency goes to DBM to propose their budget level, there are two things which we consider.
Okay.
Number one is the cost of their ongoing programs and projects. And these comprise the tier one. What we call the tier one is the cost of ongoing programs and activities, regardless of whether an organization or an entity has outputs or produce outputs. Number two, we now consider also the absorptive capacities of agencies and departments.
Okay.
Because in many instances, continuing appropriations are not used. or not even released during the year that it was appropriated.
Not used and not released.
Yes.
So,
There are certain
sinabi mo na, ma'am, not used.
not
Sabi-
used or not released.
Okay.
Okay.
Yung budget na binigay niyo sa kanila, hindi ko nagamit.
It is not
I'm just, sorry ma'am.
Opo.
So tama ako. Kasi baka may mag-deny ka na naman. So budget not used.
Okay.
Okay. So doon niya determine whether it's next year, whether yung budget na yan ay request na yan tungkol that particular budget, tataasan o bababaan. Okay, sige.
Opo.
I just want to make sure kasi ayoko na mag-deny tayo mamaya.
Okay.
Go ahead po, madam.
In addition to the continuing appropriations, we also consider the reports on operations.
Reports, okay.
Okay.
Reports.
The
Sige.
physical as well as financial.
Physical,
Yes.
okay. Sige.
So-
Physical and financial, tama? Okay, sige po. Go ahead po.
Accomplishments against targets.
Accomplishment against target, okay.
And that is used as basis for the level that will be provided for the agency for the budget year.
Good enough. Okay, now, let's start with the Department of Migrant Workers, which I'm the committee chair. Nag-request po ng CAPEX ang OWA for 2022 ng 281,116 pesos. Pinabla niyo po, meaning zero. Kahit man lang sana katiting, inaproba niyo, wala. Alam niyo ba kung para saan sana yung amount na yun? Meron ho ba sa inyo na dating OFW o dating nagtatrabaho po sa OWA, nagtatrabaho sa PUE para magkaroon po ng konting insight kung ano ba talaga ang mga pamamalakad nangyayari po dyan sa loob ng mga departamento na nagipag-ugnayan na sumusuporta at tumutulong sa mga OFW. Now, just answer this question. 281 ang request. Alam niyo siguro para sa yung 281 million.
I am assuming, Mr. Chair, while we are looking for the data, because it's a very new department, at that point when we were preparing the budget, the level of detail that was required per national budget call was not yet available for DMW. I am just assuming that, Mr. Chair.
You're just assuming.
Yes.
Kasi po sabi niyo reports, yung physical, structure. Okay, I'll tell you what now ma'am, para hindi na tayo magkahirapan pa ito at humaba. Yung 281 million na ni-request po ng OWA, tagal na po yan. Time and time again, they've been requesting amount para sa kanilang CAPEX. And time and time again, palagi niyo po tinatabla. Para saan po sana yan? Para po sana sa mga infrastructure yan, mga offices at mga sasakyan na gagamitin po ng mga kawani nila para pumunta sa mga liblib na lugar para tugunan ang mga panawagan ng mga OFWs, yung mga may problema, susunduin, dadalhin sa shelter, at yung mga dumarating, susunduin sa airport, o dadalhin pa doon sa kanilang lugar, and kinatapos po yan. So, yung mga sasakyan po na meron ng OWA, matatanda na po, luma na bubulok, kakarag-karag na nasisira na. So, ang nangyari, nag-rent po sila para lamang matugunan yung pangangailangan nila para doon sa paghatid sundo sa mga FW, number one. Number two, infrastructure. Meron pa nga po atang executive order, this was a couple of years ago, na pinapayagan po, dahil meron po nag-donate ng lupa sa Coronadal. So all it needs is budget sa construction. Again, tinabla po. Meron pong nag-donate din ng lupa sa OWA para sa Pagadian, para sila po ay makapaglipat ng opisina dahil bulok na yung kanilang opisina. And ang kailangan lang po, budget para sa infrastructure, construction. Again, tinabla naman po ng DBM. You're acting like God. That's the reason why, kanina, akala ko narinig ko talaga, pero sabi mo din yung sinabi, dapat to, meron kayong expertise in a particular department on the aspect of governance of that particular department na kina-slash po yung budget. Hindi kayo slash na slash. Example, bago sagutin niyo sa DBM. Sa Judiciary, ang tanong ko po ma'am, meron ba kayong inmate na relatives presently na nasa any of our city jails? First question. Second question, ano ba ay naging defendant na sa isang case sa any court? Or have you been a respondent in a subpoena from a prosecutor's office? If the answer is no, then I'll lecture you. Sorry po, madam. Wala, no? The answer is no to all?
No.
Mayroon ako reason kung bakit ko tinatanong yun.
Okay, Mr. Chair.
No?
No, Mr. Chairman, Your Honor.
Okay. Umpisahan po natin doon sa state of our judiciary sa mga korte. Alam niyo po ba na kulang na kulang po ang ating mga korte? In so many cases, defendant,
Mr. Chair, sige.
in so many instances, relevant po itong sinasabi ko makinig po kayo ha. Kasi marami akong karanasan nito dahil marami po lumalapit sa akin na mga mahirap nating kababayan na nadidiin sa isang kaso. Kulang po yung mga korte natin. So, isang korte, 2 hanggang 3 judges ang nag-uukupa. Right?
Sila muna.
So, ano po yung magiging domino effect noon? Number 1,
It's related, yeah?
nadidelay po
Related, okay.
yung kaso. Nagkakaroon po ng delay sa kaso dahil nga yung mga judges, paano nila agad-agad mapapabilis yung resolve sa isang case? Because 2, 3 sila, mag-antayin sila sa scheduling. Number 1. Number 2, yung pong suspect, di ba, na may kaso doon sa RTC na 3 ang judges sa isang korte. Yan po, ay mahirap at walang pang-bail, tutuloy-tuloy po sa city jail. Tama po? Since wala po siya pang-bail, kahit na mababaw yung kanyang kasalanan, o kahit na in some cases, wala talaga siya kasalanan, na pag-flipan lang ng mga police or whoever, then siya po ay magdurusa sa loob ng city jail. So kung halimbawa abutin ng 2 taon bago matapos yung kanyang kaso, dahil nga sa scheduling ng judges, dahil kulang sa infrastructure, then 2 taon siya magdurusa. Okay? Now, doon sa Prosecutor's Office, sabi ko kung kayo po ay naging respondent sa PINA from the Fiscal's Office, punta ka sa Fiscal's Office, ang haba po ng pila ng mga defendant doon. Pag mayaman, mag-aantay sa kotse, naka-aircon, nakabukas yung aircon, tatawagin na lang ka ng driver, boss, ikaw na, aakyat si defendant. Pero pag mahirap, pila-pila, papay-pay pa yan dahil walang aircon, sira, bulok yung infrastructure.
Stringent requirement.
Building. Now, ito po ngayon. So ang nangyayari po, pag walang infrastructure at kulang kagamitan sa korte, ano pong ginagawa ng mga local executive? Pasintabi sa mga judges, di ako magpapatama. Lumalapit po sila sa LGU, sa mga local executives. Magpatayo po ng mga korte. Mag-provide ng aircon, electric fan, at refrigerator. Now, what's in it for us? Sasabihin po ni local executive. So therefore, these judges, these prosecutors will be indebted to the local executives. So ibig sabihin, may influensya po ng local executives yung kaso dahil iutang sa kanila. And ang masaklap pa, kapag mayroong abusado diyang local executive, kung yan sipa-sipain ang sinong Juan de la Cruz dahil malakas siya sa local executive sapagkat nag-donate siya ng aircon, nag-donate siya ng refrigerator, kasama siya sa pag-donate para makapag-construct ng bagong building o korte. Yan po ang isang dahilan kung bakit palagi kong sinasabi, especially during the campaign, he was less in love, she had more in law. Ang first and last defense po ng ating mga mayot na kababayan ay ang batas. Pero kung sa batas nasushort-change sila, paano kung sa batas na sana magprotekta sa kanila, yun pa mismo ang nag-abandona sa kanila. Do you follow me, ma'am?
Yes, Your Honor.
Kaya nga po, masama ang loob ko nung nakita ko po yung budget sa Judiciary na kinat niyo po almost in half. Kayo ho ba ay meron experience o meron kayo mga abogado o judges man lang na mga consultant ninyo bago kayo mag-slash ng budget ng Judiciary para magsabi sa inyo, okay, ito importante, ito hindi importante, ito pwedeng i-go natin, things like that.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I handled the Judiciary when I was still director.
Okay.
Just to give a perspective for the budget of the Supreme Court, when I handled it, the funding of the Supreme Court and the lower courts were very centralized. And that's the reason why we computed an allocation per trial court. Now, yun pong first issue regarding the creation of courts, that is made by the legislature. And once a court is created, DBM provides and approves the plantilla for the courts. Unfortunately, because of the very stringent requirements for lawyers as well as technical for the Supreme Court, what happens is that they have an unfilled position, they have a gap of around 40%. That is also true for NAPROS, the National Prosecution Service. And that's the reason, Your Honor, Mr. Chair, we were coordinating with the Department of Justice na baka pwedeng huwag masyadong taasan yung requirement kasi parang 5 years po of active practice bago mapasok sa prosecution.
Okay.
Opo. Ganun din po sa mga judges and justices. Once na na-create yung court, DBM actually provides it. Now for the MOO...
Sorry, ma'am. Okay, sige. Meron na tayong mga korte. Ang sinasabi kanina, pero noong mga korte, kulang yung korte. Mas maraming judges. And in some cases, kulang din po yating judges. Halimbawa po, may mag-retire na isang judge. Right? So, syempre, meron siyang backlog dyan. So, pag-retire niya, ipapasa niya sa isang judge na by himself already, overwhelmed na siya. Ipapasa yan kasi ang tagal, inaabot po ng taon bago magkaroon ng replacement.
Yes.
Dahil wala pong budget. Kasi na-slash po yung budget para Supreme Court.
Hindi naman po in-slash kasi mas mataas naman po yung provision niya from last.
No, ang ibig sabihin kasi po, binawasan yung budget. So, hindi po makagalaw yung judiciary. Kumbaga, paano nila pagkasya nitong budget na binawasan? Kasi nagbigay siyang proposed budget o certain amount and then kinat in half. So, dapat yung kalahati na nawala, yun po sana mapunta sa infrastructure, yun po sana pagdating sa hiring ng judges, pag-modernize ng kanilang mga ng kanilang computer system, etc. Pinutol na po.
Mr. Chair, Your Honor, even if the budget was slashed insofar as the Supreme Court is concerned, we also would like to flag that previous budgets of the Supreme Court are available to the Supreme Court until it is fully exhausted because it is a SIFAG. So, meron po silang available funds under their financial statements na nasa kanila at nakacentralize ho kasi sa Supreme Court. Yun po yung nagiging problema.
If I can add also, Yusek, Your Honor, I think a lot of the judiciary's positions are unfilled sa judges kasi may bottleneck somehow dun sa appointment process. Can you get the figures from... You think you can get that for us, yung unfilled judiciary positions, yung hindi pa na-appoint yung judge, etc. Matami-rami yun di ba? Para I remember in the last judiciary hearing, not this year but maybe last year, they mentioned that there were so many pending appointments sa Office of the President, di ba? Yeah.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Yes, in line
Mr. Lord,
with the
yeah.
question of Senator Tulfo and your statement, I recall when I was in your position as...
Allow me just to acknowledge our Majority Leader, Senator Joel. Good morning, sir.
Thank you, Your
Yes,
Honor.
thank you.
Thank you.
Regarding the unfilled positions in the judiciary, I recall that, and LBRMO is here, I know that even if they are not utilized by the judiciary, the legislature never reduces the amount. In short, magugulat po kayo, ang laki-laki ng savings ng judiciary. In short, meron mga unfilled positions because of difficulties beyond the DBM scope and beyond the legislature in hiring, yun ang binanggit ng chair, many challenges, hindi po napupuno yan. Pero yung pondong linaan natin sa kanila, nasa kanila pa. Tapos na lang ang hearing ng judiciary, pero kung titignan po nyo sa records, tatanungin nyo sila, maraming taon po, hanggang ngayon, hindi po napupuno yan at hindi po natin ginagawa na ang kanilang pondo sa susunod na taon ay mas mababa doon because of the Constitution, Article 8, Section 3, that the judiciary will have fiscal autonomy. I'll just put in the record, judiciary shall enjoy fiscal autonomy. Appropriations for the judiciary may not be reduced by the legislature below the amount appropriated for the previous year and after approval will be automatically and regularly released. So, hindi po binabawasan ng Kongreso, kasama po natin ang pondo ng Judiciary. Labag po yan sa konstitusyon. Ang DBM, hindi po nila, sa aking lahat ng taon nagtrabaho sila, hindi po nila binababaan ang budget ng Judiciary. Sigurado po ako dyan. At saka, yung unfilled positions po, nandyan po yan, hindi natin binabawi, hindi po revert to Treasury gaya po ng ibang ahensya ng gobyerno na after 1 year or 2 years, kung extended ang budget, babalik. Sa kanila po yan at marami po silang savings. That's my answer to the DBM and to Senator Tulfo. I'm certain of that.
Okay, kasi nga, thank you, Senator Lauren
thank
Lagada at DBM. Kasi in talking to some judges, I have some people that I know sa courts, na tinatanong ko, bakit bubulok-bulok yung mga korte ninyo? Ay bakit ang nagpatayo ng courthouses ninyo ay si Mayor ganito? Diba? Kasi wala nga po silang budget. Wala raw pong perang ibinigay sa kanila for those infrastructure, sa infra.
Magandang sinabi nyo yan. Salamat at sinabi nyo yan kasi tama yan. Maraming mga courthouses.
Makadagdag ko, Senator. Yun nga po, paano pa magkaroon ng autonomy itong mga judges natin ang nagpatayo po ng courthouse ay si Mayor o si Governor. Ang nagbigay po ng mga aircon, nagbigay po ng sasakyan, nagbigay po ng LGUs, yung refrigerator. So, indebted na po itong mga korte natin sa mga LGUs. So, pwede na maghari-harian mga taga-LGUs.
It should not be like that. May I just put on record, Mr. Chair, in response to Senator Tulfo and for alam na ng DBM to, I just want to put it on record. Sa savings po nila, sa unfilled positions na maraming taon ay tanong ko sa DBM, maari yan i-realign gamit for CAPEX, capital outlay, para po sa upgrading and rehabilitation of our courthouses. Pangalawa po, experience ko rin dahil may mga humingi po ng tulong nung tayo po'y share ng finance sa mga courthouses. 2018 ko po binigay hanggang 2019. Ngayon po, hindi pa tinatayo pa. Kaya sabi ko po, nakabalik na ako ng Senado. Sa Antique po ito. Sa Judiciary po yung fund. So I call them, can I inaugurate it now that I'm back in the Senate? We have not started the construction. It's been 5 years.
So, sabihin, Madam Senator, so may pera sila pero ayaw nilang gamitin para mag-construct na korte. It doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense.
Bakit hindi nila gagamit yung pera na binigay sa kanila?
Yes, Senator Tulfo, hindi ko po masa-second guess ang dahilan. Maganda po, nungin natin, kasi tapos na yung judiciary budget, maybe sa plenary, pero even before then, what is the challenge? Why the savings, which can be realignable for CAPEX, or even funds given for CAPEX for courthouses are not immediately used? Perhaps the chair of the committee can answer that, or DBM.
Ba silang unutilized for
Bakit
CAPEX?
ganun? Oo.
Magkano yung utilize po nila? Pwede malaman? Halimbawa, for last year, magkano po yung utilize na para sana sa CAPEX, para sa improvement, para sa construction ng mga courthouses? Meron mo bang ganong klaseng savings? Sila? At magkano? Kasi na po, I've been to different courthouses around the country. Marami din mga dilapidated courthouses. Marami dyan mga bubulok-bulok. Meron pa akong pumunta minsan, I think that's somewhere in Pasay, na meron pong timba. Kasi kaulan lang, sinasahod po yung tulo ng ulan. I don't think kung may pera itong mga Supreme Court natin o yung Judiciary, hindi na gagamitin yung para mag-construct. I don't believe that. Talagang walang pera, kaya hindi sila nag-construct. Yan po sinasabi ko, dapat po, iikot din po kayo, tinitingnan din po yung tunay na estado ng mga korte natin because I've been there. Sumasama po ako sa mga mahirap ng kababayan na respondent po sa mga kaso. Pupunta ako ng probinsya, Davao, Cebu, para sumama po. In so many cases, ito po yung nagpapiansa. Tapos po ako ng bail using my own money. Kasi nakita ko po, itong isang pobre, mabubulok to sa isang bilangguan dahil pinagbintangan lang ng isang kaso na hindi naman niya talaga ginawa at ang bail lamang is 10,000 and he cannot afford. Therefore, mabubulok siya doon. Diba? Dahil bakit siya mabubulok? Yung kanyang kaso, i-reschedule sapagkat wala ng korte. At kung may korte man, ano po yung judge? So ngayon, kumbaga naka-hostage ngayon itong na respondent sa isang kaso sa schedule ng judge. Kaso yung judge na mahirap makakuha ang schedule dahil walang korte. Diba? Pumunta ko kayo sa mga korte. Ako po, ang dami ko napuntang korte. Sumasama po ako sa mga respondents. Kaawa-awa po yung maraming mga korte natin. Nakakahiya. Pumunta ko kayo sa abroad. Akala nyo nasa hotel kayo. Sa atin, buti pa yung palengke, buti pa yung wet market, buti pa yung Q-Mart. Kung minsan, malinis pa tingnan yung Q-Mart kahit sa mga korte natin dyan dito sa NCR. Bubulok-bulok. Kasi kung meron talaga silang savings, matatali naman siguro yung mga judges natin, hindi naman siguro mga moro niyan na if savings tayo, sige gamitin natin ito pag-construct ng korte. Hindi yun. May savings kayo, hindi mo gagamitin yung savings mo para mag-construct ng korte at papayagan mo si Mayor ang mag-pondo niyan. Marami po sa mga korte natin, ang nagpo-pondo po niyan, pati yung malaman yan, GU. Kaya there were so many instances na meron po akong proponent na walang kasalanan, na kusunadahan lang ni Mayor or nagkaroon na ng konting sama ng loob si Councilor, tulong na agad. Why? Malakas siya kay Piskal, malakas siya kay Judge. Bakit? Si Mayor na nag-provide o si Council nag-provide ng kanyang electric pan o ng kanyang aircon, ng kanyang sasakyan. Si Mayor nagpatayo ng house. So these people, the Fiscal and the judges are indebted to these politicians. At sino pa rin talo dito? Mahirap. Mayaman man. Meron silang perang pagkuha ng mga magagaling na abogado. Expensive lawyers to defend them. And then meron silang pangpiyansa. So they do, unless kung yan po ay non-bearable offense. Mga mayaman man, they don't care. Kahit na 1 milyon pangpiyansang ibigay, for them, they can come up. Pero mahirap, 10,000. Meron pa nga ako 10,000. Hindi na kaya. I have to spend my own money para mapiyansahan yung pobre. Yan po yung tunay na estado sa ating judicial system. At mind you, ma'am, marami po mga nakakulong ngayon sa mga city jail natin, nag-aantay na matapos yung mga kaso ma-resolve. For many years na nandyan sila. Walang kasalanan. I know this for a fact because alam ko kung yung karakas ng karamihan sa ating mga pulis, hindi naman nila lahat. Maraming sa mga pulis, mabilis na magpakulong ng inosenteng kababayan dahil alam nila walang perang depensa. So ma'am, ang request ko lang, sana mag-usap kayo ng mabuti, ng maayos, ng mga taga-judiciary. Kung paano kayo magtulungan, number one, na modernize, ma-digitalize na yung ating judiciary. Pupunta ko ka sa korte. Ito, marami din mga korte. Pagpunta mo, nakakatakot na, baka yung upuan doon, yung bench na mahaba, may pako. Ito, I'm not joking, I'm not kidding. Tapos, sa tabi niya, makikita mo sa dingding, yung mga folders, nagpatong-patong. Paano kung yung folder na yun doon, patong-patong yung pala yung kaso mo? Sorry ka na lang. Mamatay ka na, hindi pa tapos yung kaso mo. You see, ano yung problema rito? Yung budget. Kasi kung meron naman talagang budget, hindi naman po bobo yung mga taga-Korte Suprema, hindi naman po siguro bobo yung mga judges na parang hindi gamitin yun. Kung there's available budget, why are they not gonna use it? Why are they gonna umasa sila sa mga local LGU? Yun po yung pinapoint out ko, Ma'am Yusek Tina Rose. Siguro po mag-usap-usap po kayo ng mga taga-judiciary, ma-put a system na para matingnan talaga kung kailangan ba talaga ang pera o hindi at ano po yung mga kailangan na pera na ibigay sa kanila na mapaayos po yung takbo ng ating judicial system. Now, mabalik ulit ako doon sa DMW. Alam niyo po, yung ginagamit na sasakyan ng OWA, 6 years old na po, crosswind. Wala na, phase out na po yung crosswind. Pupugak-pugak po. Okay? So ngayon, ang ginagawa po nila, mag-renta po sila. Sige, pakitawag ng alipores niyo po.
Mr. Chair, Your Honor, unfortunately, we have current regulations which state that for government vehicles, it has to be 7 years before it is replaced. So probably that's the reason why yung 6-year-old vehicle ng OWA hindi pa ho napapalitan. That is true to all departments and agencies. So we provide a vehicle after the 7-year period and after they submit an inventory of vehicles.
So, ano po yan? Batas po natin yan?
It's a COA guideline, Your Honor,
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
So is there any way na mag-usap po kayo ng COA? Total, hindi naman pala RA yan, na para mabago yan, para sa isang departamento na kailangan talaga ng sasakyan. In this case, kasi po sa OWA, hindi naman po nila ginagamit sa patag yan eh. Usually po, pupunta yan sa mga libid na lugar na kung saan nandun po yung ating mga pobreng OFW. Now, just imagine 7 years crosswind, lubak-lubak yung daan. In 2 years pa lang, 3 years, sira na yan. So mas magastos pa po, may pupunta po sa repair shop para ayusin yung sasakyan. It doesn't make sense. Po, papalitan ng bago. So kung yun po yung batas, then siguro come up with something na hindi na paabuti ng ganong katagal, especially doon sa needs ng departamento. In this case, yung OWA, pupunta po yun sa mga liblib na lugar.
Nito pong huli, ito pong pandemic na ito, binigyan natin ng OWA ang authority to rent motor vehicles, especially for OFWs. Pag hindi naman po roadworthy na yung sasakyan, pinapalitan naman po at ino-authorize ng DBM yung amount. It is really based on the representation of the department of the agency.
Okay. Okay. Yung po mga infrastructure na ni-request po ng OWA, kaya nga po humiling sila nitong 281 million para po maglagay ng office sa Coronadal, maglagay ng office sa Pagadian kasi po bubulok-bulok ng present offices nila doon. At meron naman pong lupa, dinonate sa kanila. Mukhang babawi na ata yung donation ng lupa yun kasi sabi hindi nyo ata kayang panindigan yung binigyan namin lupa. So sana po yun yung something na kinonsider nyo. Sana po dinusisi nyo muna ng gusto itong 281 bago nyo po ni-slash. Kasi tinanong ko po yung OWA kayo ba ay tinanong muna o pinagsubmite ng mga dokumento to your budget being slashed? Wala. Sabi wala po eh. Basta in-slash na lang. They didn't even ask for documents from us.
Mr. Chair, contrary to what OWA represented, we normally ask agencies and departments to support their infrastructure projects, especially because this is a new department. We're extra sensitive to new departments. And
OWA is not a new department.
No,
Madam Yusek.
BMW.
Okay.
Because it's integral to the new department. So, hiningi po namin yon. Unfortunately, yung mga clearances required, kagaya ng yung DNR clearance for plus yung DPWH clearance, hindi na-submit. So, including yung sa IT po nila.
Did you ask for that?
Yes,
Those
yes.
documents? Well, siguro sa susunod na hearing, iharap ko po sa inyo si Arnel Ignacio because he said wala raw po talaga. I don't know kung nagsisinungaling ba si Arnel Ignacio, yung administrator ng OWA, o sino po sa inyo dito sa...
Doon, nasa...
Siguro mas maganda kung pagharap-harapin kayo. Kasi sinabi po ni OWA, Administrator Arnel Ignacio, tinanong ko talaga, are you sure hindi ko kayo hinihingi ng documents o explanation bago sila mag-slash? Wala raw talaga, zero. Basta't na lang, tinabla na lang. Yun ang pagkasabi.
At that point kasi I think si Administrator Ignacio was not yet the administrator. So we were coordinating with the finance people of OWA. So we actually required it. In fact,
nagtanong-tanong na siya. Sabi ko sa kanya, balikan mo ako in a few minutes. Tanungin mo dyan sa finance, kung sino man dyan sa opisina na nakikipag-communicate yung DBM tungkol sa budget request. Sabi niya, yes. Tinanong ko na lahat yan. Wala talaga kaming natanggap na warning man lang na i-slash namin to unless makapagpakita kayo ng additional documents to justify itong construction ng building. Wala raw po. Now, nakangiti po kayo. Pero si Arnel Ignacio, nung kausap po, hindi po siya nakangiti. Seryoso po siya.
Kasi, Mr. Chair, Your Honor, just to also provide information, before we finalize the budget and submit it to our printers, we give all departments and agencies confirmation letter. And OWA was also provided with this letter. And after that, they're given about a week to react on their budget.
So, pinapadala niyo po siya ng sulat. Sige, granting totoo na yung sinasabi niyo. Meron ba kayong received copy?
Yes, Your Honor, Mr. Chair.
Then can you provide me with a received copy para
Yes,
babalikan
Mr.
ko si
Chair.
Administrator Ignacio tungkol dyan?
Opo, pagkatapos po nun, meron po kaming tinatawag na hearing within DBM, it's internal to DBM, where we call it the hearing period.
The what period mo?
Hearing.
Anong hirit?
English yun eh.
Okay. Okay.
Wala
Sige.
pang English kasi yung
Kanina sipsip na yun, hirit naman. Kaya magsipsip ka muna bago ka makahirit.
internal to DBM yan.
Okay, sige.
Internal to DBM yan.
Yung birit, ano ba
Ba't mo yung birit? Hina lang ha, baka mamaya mapunta tayo kung saan.
Sirit.
Okay, sirit okay pa.
So, internal to DBM, and that's what we call it. That is the period when agencies request for reconsideration, realignment of their levels, and if the fiscal space allows it, binibigay po yan.
You know, ma'am, I don't know kung sino po nagsasabi na totoo. And then, nagtanong din po ako sa mga members of the Judiciary tungkol sa sinasabi nyo. And they said, no, wala mga ganon. Hindi sila humingi ng additional documents from us o supporting documents para ma-aprobahan, ma-reconsider yung aming request. There's no such, so ibig sabihin ito mga nag-hudikatura yung nagsisinungaling. So si Anel Ignacio sinungaling, ito mga, siyempre, I'm not gonna name names mo na itong justice, mga justice na kausap ko, sinungaling din.
Hindi sila sinungaling.
Ano lang?
Hindi pa siguro nagkakaintindihan.
Miscommunication.
Ganito. Pwede ako tumulong?
Go ahead, ma'am.
Chair. I'm sure they all mean well. There's a need to upgrade and rehabilitate courthouses, all the infrastructures, judiciary. In fact, as I said, every year, Mr. Chair, there's the funding for the unfilled positions. In the NEP, there's 8.494B for the NEP of 2023 for the total judiciary lump sum for filling of positions, meaning this has mean that in the previous year's budget, this is the same amount for the cutoff period for the unfilled positions, because for the provision in the Constitution, we're not allowed to go below it, right? So ibig po niyang sabihin, yung 8.494 billion ay nandyan po na hindi nagamit sa nakaraang taon. So meron pong nakalaan naman sa 2023 NEP na pinapag-aralan natin na 8.494 for filling. Pwede nilang punuin lahat yan, or maaring maging savings na pwedeng i-realign, legal po yan, sa pangangailangan sa capital outlay. Pwede po yun. Tama ba ako, DBM, o baka mali intindi ko? Tama, ayun. So, does it mean that the 8.494 billion for unfilled positions for 2022 is there and can be utilized for the upgrade of courthouses? DBM, is that legal? Can they use it that way, Mr. Chair?
Juggling of funds?
Hindi. Kaya nga tinatanong ko, is that allowed? The funds unused or unfilled positions for this year, can it be used to rehabilitate courthouses?
They can realign
They can
internally.
realign it. Okay. And did, in the President's budget, in the NEP, which we're studying, in the gap, do we have the provision for unfilled positions in the same amount of the previous year so as not to violate the Constitution? We did not go down. Yes.
Okay.
Therefore, the judiciary may fill up the positions for qualified persons. And if unused, is it legal for them to utilize it for capital outlay to upgrade courthouses? Okay, very clear.
So, okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Lauren. Wala kasi dito yung mga justices sa taga-judiciary to defend themselves. Kasi nag-uusapan, kayo, ako, kayo, kami, kayo. Dapat next time po, kung gusto niyo po, I'll set up a meeting, maski natapos ng budget hearing natin, para magkalamanan kung sino nagsasabi ng totoo, kung sino may mali. Kasi may sinasabi, maganda yung sinasabi ni Senator Lauren. Kung pakinggan natin, mukhang okay, mukhang wala kayong kasalanan. Mukhang ang may problema rito yung mga justices sa Supreme Court dahil hindi na ginagamit
Clarify ko, Sen. Rafi, hindi ko po tinuturo na may
No.
Judiciary, ah.
No, what I'm saying is, parang lumilitaw na gano'n, parang hindi nila alam yung tinatawag na realignment na pwede pa realign yung savings nila doon sa unfilled position para
Kasi alam po nila.
hindi, kaya nga mas maganda kung nandito po sila. Kasi they cannot defend themselves right now. They're not here. So we can say anything we want, you can say anything you want, but they should be here para magkaalamanan. That's why mismo, willing po ako na iharap sila sa inyo at mag-uusap kayo at makikinig po ako kung sino sa inyo talaga ang tama, whoever is making sense. Yun po yun eh. Kasi we can say anything we want here, but they're not here to defend themselves. Yun po ibig sabihin.
Your Honor, you've consumed more than 17 minutes. We've been very liberal with your time, actually.
Thank you. Sorry, Mr. Chair.
I'm sorry, but because I'm only saying that because nag-aantay po si Minority Leader for his second round.
Sorry, Mr. Chair.
so-
Sorry, Mr. Minority Leader. Thank you, sorry.
Thank you. No, we'll give you, if you want to wrap up, you want to say anything, please wrap up.
Anyway, Mr. Chair, yung sa akin lang naman, kaya nga, lahat ng budget na pinopropose, hindi po ako tumututol dahil hindi naman po ako expert sa mga ganong klaseng, di ba, budgeting ng naman department. But ang sa akin lang next time, we really have due diligence at some research kung kailangan ba talaga o hindi yung budget na yung kailangan ba talaga slash o hindi. Yun lang po. Maraming salamat. Salamat, Mr. Chair. Salamat, Minority Leader. Pasensya na ha. Pasensya na.
Thank you very much, Senator Tulfo. And maybe the DBM can have a dialogue as suggested by Senator Tulfo with the Judiciary para yung mga needs na binanggit niya. I confirm that because I used to attend, I used to go to the Hall of Justice sa QC, Pasay, Manila, as a practicing lawyer. Meron talagang, totoo yung sinabi niya, yung may kaldero, may panluto, totoo po lahat yan. And Yusek Janet is nodding her head. Nakita na rin po niya yun siguro sa Baguio and in the Cordillera. So, just a suggestion from our part to, of course, we respect the independence of the judiciary, pero syempre, there must also be an efficient use of funds for all government agencies. So, next is...
Mr. Chairman,
yes, go ahead, Majority Leader.
leave the topic because I'm kind of wanting to be clarified with what was mentioned a while ago. If you have unfilled position, and by the way, when you talk about unfilled positions in government, 1 out of 10 positions in government ay unfilled po. Right now, we have 170,668 items unfilled. When we were debating on the passage of ending ENDO, every time we talk about ending ENDO in the private sector, hindi ho nawawala yung pagsabi na ang government ang number 1 violator. Because if you look at the listing, with the contract of service, job order ng worker, 642,077. Now, just very quick, no, this is not my time yet, Mr. Chairman, but let me just put on record, 1 out of 10 unfilled. It's been going around for the past 6 years, every budget hearing, this representation, and the records will bear me out. I have been raising this particular issue. But Senator Ligardo made mention about the unfilled positions. It goes back to the Treasury. Is that correct? Hindi. Kasi hindi. Because kanina, binabanggit ni Senator Ligardo, they can actually realign. But of course, they cannot do it without DBM's blessing, di ba? Tama po. They cannot realign. They can. For example, yung binabanggit kanina, unfilled, yung positions, gagamitin ko yung pondo for building, pwede yun? Unless i-declare muna nila na savings, sasabihin po sa inyo, dito namin gagamitin, i-approve nyo. Is that correct? Sige po. Just
kailangan sa inyo, di ba? Because under the Constitution, they're distinct, di ba? They're given that power, di ba?
Particularly for the judiciary, sir, under the Constitution, they have that.
Also the legislature, di ba?
The legislature.
But for example, let's say TESDA, for example.
For TESDA, sir, yes. It should
Exactly.
be through
Yes.
the DBM.
That's my point. My only point, Mr. Chairman, is that this has been happening for so long, no? Probably decades already. In fact, there are some agencies, departments that I would raise every budget hearing. Mataas pa nga po yung
unfilled position. Yung ginagawa nila dito, I mean, wag na tayong maglokohan. Ginagawa nila to kasi gagamitin nila yan pang Christmas bonus. And it's been around for quite some time. Unfortunately, uulitin ko po, the numbers don't lie. We have 642,077 contract of service, job order, been there for, yung sasakyan, nagreklamo tayo 6 years. Yung mga nandun, 20 years na, job order ko rin eh. Dapat mas yun ang pagtuulan natin ng pansin. And then you have 170,668 unfilled positions. So, again, I am raising this issue because as lawmakers, as policymakers, I think it is our duty to look into this, how we can, and that's why I'm in full support of right-sizing, Your Honors, Mr. Chairman. And I've been supporting the statements of our Secretary Pangandaman, that it's about time that we right-size. And right-sizing doesn't mean downsizing. Hindi ibig sabihin magtatanggal agad. Hindi. Ang right-sizing means we wanted an efficient, effective government agencies, government department. So, again, at the proper time, Mr. Chairman, I have a list of agencies and units in the different departments, agencies of the government that I wanted to abolish actually, Mr. Chairman. And I've been studying this very intensively, Mr. Chairman.
Ang laki ng tawa po ni Secretary Mina nung sinabi niyo po yun.
Parang po siya, but
parang nakita na nila yung savings na ma-generate ng
exactly. That's what I'm about to ask later, Mr. Chairman. Kasi we're looking at, and they proposed this right-sizing idea, which I have been supporting, Mr. Chairman, since time immemorial. The proper time, Mr. Chairman, I will give the floor to our minority leader who's been waiting patiently. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. It's a good point, the Majority Leader. You suggest, I saw you raising your hand. Did you want to say something?
We actually would like to confirm, Mr. Chair, that for the PS of the executive agencies, sir, the life of the appropriations is just 1 year. And then because of the proliferation po of the unfilled dati na hindi siya nag-e-expire, what we did is not to fund yet the unfilled positions.
So walang alignment savings. There's no bonus
yes,
anymore.
may
That was the practice
MMDA
before, di ba?
po.
Yung sinasabi ni
That was the
Majority
practice.
Leader. Wala na yun.
Wala na yun, sir. But we put some amount sa MPBF na para pag sila po ay mag-fill, we release, sir.
Yeah, that's okay.
Yes.
Kasi yun, at least may standards, di ba?
Yes.
Kasi yung sinasabi ni Majority Leader, tama siya eh. If there are unfilled positions that they can realign, they will never fill up, they will never make permanent.
Dati po,
Because there's no incentive eh.
Yeah.
There's a disincentive in effect to
Yes.
fill up that position.
But also to point out another issue, another problem that would arise in that particular issue is the fact that yung civil service, actually I just failed to attend the civil service hearing a while ago, but I got a chance to talk to Chairman Carlo yesterday, and yung point system, mahalaga talaga yun. Yung mga positions, kailangan ma-evaluate talaga. Sana meron tayong regular evaluation ng mga positions kasi minsan, for example, when we were in TESDA, iisa ho yung position ng abogado sa TESDA nung time ko, iisa. I'm not sure if nadagdagan na ngayon. Yung laking ahensya na ho na yun, iisa yung abogado, no? Yung legal person namin doon. Tapos yung ibang position naman, ang taas-taas ng hinihingi ng civil service, yung JO doon sa ahensya has been there for quite a long time doing the job, doing his or her job efficiently, and yet he couldn't make it. He or she couldn't make it to become regular because of all these requirements, ridiculous requirements, I would say. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Tama si Majority Leader. Baka meron din kaming kaso dito sa yung mga waiter sa lounge, for instance. Pinapa-permanent namin. Ang sabi, wala kasing position for waiter. So kumbaga, yung ginagawang categories ng DBM, hindi nakapasok dun sa requirement, hindi nagmamatch dun sa requirements. So I'm hearing that a lot. It's good the Majority Leader raised that. Na walang position dun para sa mga tao dahil they don't meet the qualifications. Pero can we not tweak the qualifications so that they can help the person rather than the other way around? Hindi ba pwede yun? Make it part of the right-sizing effort siguro, di ba?
You have to get in touch po with civil service.
Kasi kung naman yung mga, you can't expect that person to study and get a degree, di ba?
Actually, Mr. Chairman, just would like to put on record that I filed a bill with regard to this particular issue na, for example, you have a national certification from TESDA and then the years of service that you have rendered in the government. Meron kang equivalencies, no?
Yeah.
Kaya lang, syempre, importante talaga dito, Mr. Chairman, yung regular,
Yes.
regular evaluation, regular check. Kumbaga, sa isang tao, pag hindi ka napunta sa nagpa-check up ng 10 taon na o 5 taon na, mahirap na eh. Hindi mo na magawa yung kaya mong gawin dati. So yun lang, Mr. Chair. Salamat po.
Thank you for raising that, Majority Leader. Always caring for the workers. Senator Legarda, you have 10 minutes if you wish.
Mr. Chair, I think I consumed my 10 minutes
During your interjections.
during my manifestations. No, that's okay. My manifestations in trying to explain the budget of the judiciary. And I recommended, I'll just use this to manifest. Up to now, I'm trying to explain to the good senator. He will file a resolution on the state of disrepair of our courthouses and have a representative from the DBM so that there can be clarity in the utilization of funds for their capex as well as the legality of utilizing savings from unfilled positions. So I think that's the best way so that there can be clarity on this. But I think, Senator Tulfo, nakatulong ba ako sa sagot ko sa'yo? Baka nakagulo pa.
Medyo nakatulong.
Medyo lang.
Medyo lang.
Sige.
Pero I like that. Magpa-file ako ng resolution in aid of legislation para
sige.
nakatulong naman talaga.
Sige.
Hindi, makatulong.
I endeavor to help everyone so that it's fun. It's not funny, Majority Leader. Yeah. Okay. Yes. Yes. Okay. MMDA budget. Where is it? With DBM.
The chairman is there. The chairman's looking at you.
Let's. We will get to the MMDA later because I have questions about the MMDA. We can ask it now.
Yeah.
DBM lang or MMDA lang?
Here's a question for you, actually.
No, wait.
About your status.
Tapusin muna natin ito na you'll file a resolution. I join you in that.
Yes.
Then,
Yes, very good.
Chair,
Very
so that
good.
it's clear, the good senator whose advocacy is the welfare of migrant workers, I will join him in amending the DMW budget so that the vehicles
Tulungan
and the
natin
infrastructure needed
Thank you.
will be provided, and
Thank you, my dear colleagues.
we support you in that.
Thank you, my dear esteemed colleagues.
Okay.
Thank you to
Medyo lang, ha?
Thank you to Senate.
Thank you.
Lubos na nakatulong po yung
Labis.
yung labis-labis na nakatulong po yun.
At least wala na tayong hirit sip-sip. Diretso na.
Ang gulo ng mga batang ito. Sige.
Thank you for your sharing your knowledge because Senator Legarda chaired this committee for many years and is very knowledgeable about the ins and outs of budgeting. So thank you.
I'm learning so much
Thank you
from
for
the
sharing.
chair, from our chair, and from our younger colleagues. No, he's not younger; he's older. But
natin, madam.
ask questions sa MMDA.
Yes, of course. Go ahead.
Sir, MMDA.
He's over there. Chairman Carlo Di Mayuga. Would you want to answer or you want to ask your question first?
Why would the MMDA chair ask a question?
It's personal, but maybe he'll ask it after the hearing na lang.
No
Go ahead, ma'am. Go ahead,
No
ma'am.
questions. Is Mr. Di Mayuga, Engineer Di Mayuga, a new chair for this admin? Why are you laughing?
He's a new appointee of this Marcos administration.
Okay. Yes.
Good morning, Your Honor.
May we? Good morning, Engineer Di Mayuga. Do we have air quality monitoring stations? I know that's a job of the DENR, but could you kindly collaborate with them so that at any one point within Metro Manila, which I assume is the most polluted metropolis in our country, aside from other urbanized cities, we know the status of the air that we breathe. And could I ask you, you have a lot of funds, provide an app with a newly confirmed secretary, Loizaga. They're having a 3-day resiliency forum with the president and guest speaker yesterday. Could you have an app? That would be good, an MMDA app. This is the air you're breathing in the Senate. Kaya mo ipangako yan, gawin nyo along with the DNR, and perhaps before plenary, we already have that app. That's simple. But we must make sure that the monitoring stations of the DNR are working? Because we fund that every year anyway. May we hear from Engineer Di Mayuga. Thank you.
Hi, good morning, ma'am, Your Honor. Yes, we used to have that before. We have a private partner for the clean air,
For that apparatus.
for that apparatus. But unfortunately po, hindi na po siya tuloy ngayon. But we will work with the DNR and partner with them for that program.
Aparatus ninyo sa air quality monitoring ay MMDA, hindi DNR.
DNR po, ma'am. But we used to have a partner also with the private sector po with an app like that. Ngayon po hindi na po siya
Since you're new
push through.
and it's not a new idea pala, meron na yan, can you just please revive it if you agree that it's a good idea,
Yes,
right?
Yes, Your Honor.
Then that's part of the compliance of the 1999 Clean Air Act. Nandito na po, wala sigurong nasa kwartong ito nakasama ko noong 1999. Is there anyone who was with me in 1999 in this room?
I was in high school, Your Honor.
Attorney Yoli Doblon was here. Attorney Yoli Doblon was here in also 1989 and 1979.
No, because we enacted the Clean Air Act. Tawa ng tawa. In 1999, the hearings were different. There were no giggling boys. I would have Cablas Ople and Raul Rocco and
I think the senators asking are not as beautiful as you. If the chairman has a request for you, if you could remove your mask, ma'am.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I smile. Okay. Nakakatawa sila. So, back to Clean Air Act. Why do I say 1999? Because that was a law that was enacted in 1999 yet. So, DBM, MMDA, you owe it. We, as lawmakers, owe it to our people. What's the population of Metro Manila now? Can't keep track anymore. 20 million? More.
Would you have
The
the
honor is around 13 million po.
1-3.
1-3.
1-3. Okay, 20 pa. Okay.
Di ba meron daytime, nighttime
Yes.
sa metropolises? Meron ba tayong ganon? What is the daytime, meaning those working, nighttime, yung iba, umuwi ng Cavite, etc. Do you have the figures for that?
If it's daytime and nighttime, plus 5 million po, Your Honor.
Oh, yun. Almost 20
So, 20
million na.
million.
Okay. So, may we request that for clean air. Second, what are you doing to clean up, in every administration there's an effort, the rivers and waterways and esteros within the confines of Metro Manila?
Ma'am, we have ongoing projects for our drainage, flood control projects, and what are the projects?
Ito po.
We have the Metro Manila Management Project for the component in minimizing solid waste po, funded by the World Bank.
The waste project funded by the World Bank, is this in compliance with Republic Act 9003? I hope all of you know here what 9003 is. May we ask the MMDA, the GM, your engineers, the directors, what is Republic Act 9003?
Our
With an S, ma'am, di ba? Can we have a letter, ma'am? What? Solid waste, right?
Logical Solid Waste Management Law. Importante po na alam nyo kayo MMDA, bigay nga nyo lahat ng batas natin na silang nagpapatupad. Sige. So, Ecological Solid Waste Management Law where every household, every barangay must institutionalize a segregation of waste at source, recycling, and composting. Ano po yung World Bank project ng solid waste? Baka naman ngongolekta yan ng mixed waste, lumalabag po yan sa RA 9003.
Your Honor, if our Director for Planning, Director Miko Gison, can
Yes,
be
please. Anyone from the MMDA family can answer, Your Honor.
Your Honor, basically, so yung World Bank project po is basically yung minimizing solid waste or water waste. We go to the barangays with the community level, we teach them, we provide mga IEC materials. Then aside from that, we try to yung behavioral change po. So basically, so from that, may mga binibili po kami ng equipment, solid waste management. Meron din po kami mga programs and projects on recycling, composting, similar to that po.
So maliwanag po na kailangan ng material recovery facility. In short, ito ay simple, hindi high-tech to, na pinaglalagyan ng segregated waste. Botelata plastic, rineresikulo, binebenta. L ay tinitimbang, binebenta. Food waste is not thrown but made into organic compost or fertilizer. Tama-tama, mahalang fertilizer. At yung hindi kayang iresikulo o gawing compost, yan lang ang residual waste or latak na pupunta sa engineered sanitary landfill. Mabaho?
Yes po.
Sana ganun po ang ginagawa at isa puso at isagawa ng MMDA. Sana po yun ang buod ng proyekto na pinupondohan ng World Bank.
Yes, Your Honor.
After your term, can you commit to try your best so that each barangay in Metro Manila is compliant with this? And this is not just an advocacy, but this is beneficial. Every vulnerable or poor Filipino, especially in NCR, lalo na sa panahon ng bagyo, pag meron yan, o bakit tayo na ondoy, di ba? Dahil yung mga waterways, may mga plastic at solid waste, o kaya baha kaagad, ganun lang yun eh. Simple. So if we follow the rule, hindi magbabaha ng ganun ka-as kaagad. So do I have the commitment, sir, of MMDA to ensure the air quality, at least in terms of monitoring, so that we know at any one time the kind of air we breathe. And second, that waste is segregated at source so that we do not see solid waste, waterways, lakes, and rivers.
Yes, Your Honor. You have our full commitment.
Yes.
Ma'am.
And may I ask you to see model barangays? I think barangay in BGC in Fort was a model before. Barangay Nyogan, Barangay Potrero, Malabon, where I'm from, that was a model of Mother Earth Foundation, which I did when I was senator before, 10 years ago. These are model barangays. And if one barangay can do it, there's no reason while all other barangays cannot. Tuturuan po kayo. Tatanungin ko si DBM Secretary. Sinama ko siya hindi sa barangay, kasama ni Attorney Dobron at ni Director Irene, hanggang sa mga purok, sulok-sulok, di ba? Nagpupunta tayo at pinapakita ko sa inyo ang kahalagahan ng kalinisan at ESWM. Kung gusto nyo, tuturuan ko din kayo, pero I'm sure alam na ninyo yan. Pwede ba ho?
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you very much.
Okay. So ESWM, that's solid waste, clean air, clean water, that's connected to ESWM. How do we ensure the cleanliness, and do you have at any one time the coliform level in, let's say, Pasig River, Tuliauhan River, San Juan River, all the rivers that traverse the metropolis? In fact, how many rivers are there? What are the names? And how many kilometers of rivers traversing the National Capital Region? Perhaps you can give the committee, if you're not ready now, the state of each river system, or esteros, if it's not a river. What are the names? Rivers, waterways, esteros, canals. Kasi marami dyan, mga na-reclaim na o natakluban na ng settlers, whether informal or formal, o natituluhan na hindi dapat, kaya nagbabaha, wala nang dadaluyan ng tubig. Right? May sagot po.
Your Honor, we have
Tanong po sa MMDA kung committed ho kayo kay Senator Legarda.
Clean air,
Yes,
clean
Hindi ba kayo mag-commit,
Yes.
Senator Legarda?
clean
Yes, Your
air, ecological solid waste, and water.
Yes, Your Honor po.
Yes.
We have 273 open water canals po and 570 kilometers
570 kilometers
of the
rivers.
of rivers po.
Wow, rivers, hindi pa kasama dyan ang esteros.
Including na po, ma'am.
Including esteros.
Yes, ma'am.
Lahat po yan, buhay. Ibig sabihin, hindi pa natakluban ng struktura.
Yes, Your Honor.
So, as the way it is now to date, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So, maybe the quality each, maybe not now, the quality of each, and let's publish it so that it will be embarrassing to see. I'm sure they're all beyond what's acceptable sa coliform level, sa magkaroon ng accountability, transparency ang bawat LGU at chief executive sa uri ng kalikasan sa kanyang lugar. Ay, nakakaya, mataas ito, nako. So, I will mind my own backyard and clean my own backyard, di ba? In short, let us utilize the green project, di ba? You still have it. DBM. Can we revive? We launched the green with SOF Jokno when he was DBM. May I ask the DBM to revive the green? You only did it for 1 or 2 years, nag-BSP na kayo eh. Buhayin naman nyo. Tapos i-share nyo with MMDA para DBM and MMDA. So your responsibilities, sirs, are air, solid waste, land, and water. I may not ask you the answers now. You may not be ready for this, but that's what I want. So I want an inventory of the 570 kilometers of water and the status of water quality based on our Clean Water Act. I want nabuhayin yung inyong convergence with DNR and the private sector for air quality monitoring, and third, to institutionalize ESWM. And fourth, what are the open spaces and parks, private or public, green open spaces in Metro Manila? If you don't have the answer, perhaps, and what are you doing about it? Green it.
Yes, Your Honor po. We will provide you po with the inventory of our open spaces for Metro Manila.
Thank you. With the permission of Senator Legarda. Also, Chairman, because Senator Nancy Binay who's a vice chair of this committee, made a point yesterday during the NEDA budget hearing about the use of waterways for tourism purposes, because she's the chairman of the Committee on Tourism. So baka pwede niyong isama na dun sa report ninyo kay Senator Legarda and sa committee, alin yung mga waterways na may tourism potential. But she was making the remarks with respect to yung mga river cruise like in Paris, in Hungary, and other countries. So baka may nakikita ho kayong na hindi namin nakikita. Please include it in your report, Chairman. Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Thank you, Sen. Lawrence.
go so far, even just like the Lubok River Cruise.
Yes.
Or like the cruise, let's say, in Sorsogon, kung saan yung may mga firefly. Di ba? We don't even have to go so far. So, within your term, hindi naman niya kaya hanggang Desyembre, siguro hanggang sa susunod na budget hearing for 1 year. But we will monitor you every month to make sure pinapalinis natin ang kalikasan sa ere, sa lupa, sa tubig. Pag magawa nyo yan, wow, matutuwa ang DBM. Papayagan yung maganda yung budget. Pang-apat, sinabi ko na yung, what was the fourth? Air, land, water, and the fourth was?
Open spaces, ma'am.
Open spaces. And the fifth, Heritage Act. Basahin nyo yung Heritage Act ng yumaong Amani Chair. At dapat naka-inventaryo sa inyo ang lahat ng sumasakop na heritage building 50 years and above. Dapat alam yan ng MMDA. Kasi ito ang ating Paris eh. Ito ang ating Roma eh. Ito ang ating Madrid, di ba? NCR. Napakaganda ka ng Maynila. Oh, di sana alam natin para kung hindi man alam ng LGU pero marami naman mulat na LGU alam nila, ay mapangalagaan natin or hindi kundi kayo ang may-ari, hindi kung pribado may-ari, at least matatakan, masabi nyo sa amin para masabi namin sa National Museum or sa NCCA, matalaga nila yung appropriate na marker para may awareness, maalagaan. Yun ang panlima. Siguro stop na muna ako doon dahil never ending ito. Atas ito, pang-anim. Ilan ang informal settlers sa Metro Manila na kailangan tulungan? Pwede ba yan within Metro Manila, in-city resettlement? Does it have to be outside? So, what is the challenge in giving a humane, makatao na bahay at buhay sa ating mga informal settlers? Ilan sila, saan ang concentration, para may database tayo ng mga dapat tulungan. Why do I say this, Mr. Chair? Because in my pre-briefing with the DOLE, because I will have their hearing tomorrow, thank you for making me the vice chair there, the 2.6 million unemployed Filipinos, which is 5% of the universe, are concentrated in 4 regions. The highest is NCR, Region 4A, and Region 6. Pinaka malaki NCR. Hiningi ko sa DOLE, I hope they give it by tomorrow. I want to see not just statistics. These are names and faces and people and families. So we want to see the 2.6 million, saan silang mga LGU, barangay, anong ang demographic sila, out of school youths o mga senior citizens, para matulungan. Para din sa pag-allocate ng pondo ng DOLE Pangkabuhayan at DOLE Tupad, AIX ng DSWD at SLP ng DSWD, ma-target yung 2.6. Bakit? Kasi pag nag-allocate ka ng pondo sa isang taon, kaya ma-wipe out ang 2 milyon. Tama? Yun ang sabi nila? With appropriate funds, I don't memorize the amount. 2 million can be helped. So the 2.6 million unemployed as of now, 2 million can be helped with the appropriate funding. And the highest of that is in Metro Manila because of the large population. So I would also need that information, sirs. I will stop at that. Baka marami ng homework ang MMDA. I'm glad that you reminded me that this is also their budget. I hope you are taking notes. Who is
Yes, Your Honor.
Engineer Mayuga, Engineer Melgar, and Michael. Bago-baho kayong lahat. Are you all new?
Ako lang po, ma'am.
Okay, you're engineers, but I hope you're environmentalists. I hope you're urban planners. I hope you are familiar with what sustainable development and resilience is all about. Yes, otherwise you read. Sige. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Linista nyo ha. O sige, summarize. Points lang, 6 points. Summarize.
Ma'am, we will work with air, waste, water,
Thesis.
open spaces, heritage,
And the employment.
and the employment.
Okay, pasado. And employment? Hindi. Hindi, informal settlers.
Formal sectors,
Okay,
ma'am.
pero dapat, i-memo nyo yan, i-summarize nyo para nagkakaintindihan tayo and the convergence with agencies. Okay? Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair, for allowing me this because it's our advocacy. And may I request a DBM to revive the green. Ang ganda nun. Kasi, di ba yung build, naging build more, build better and more. So kayo, ito green or greener? The greener normal, whatever. Green is good. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Is it beyond 10 minutes?
Medyo lang. But thank you for the tutorial on labor, environment, heritage, and other relevant topics. Yes. Parang gumagawa ng thesis yung chairman ng MMDA. But thank you, Majority Leader. If you have any questions.
Mr. Chairman, will not take long, but let me point out, Mr. Chairman, that what our Senate President Pro Tempore did today, this morning, parang isang course po yung ating inattendan sa kolehiyo. Talagang napakapalad ng Senado for having Senator Ligarda with us, whom we call Tita Ganda. And I think the chairman of MMDA,
For obvious reasons.
yes, for obvious reasons, committed everything. Committed, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman,
And I hope DBM also.
I will go to DB. I just have one question to MMDA, Mr. Chairman, because I spoke with
Go ahead, Your Honor.
Senator Tolentino, Senator Binay, Senator Ejercito, Senator Win Gatchalian, and others, Mr. Chairman. And this is very important to ask in this budget hearing, to see the fitness of the chairman of MMDA. Saan school daw kayo gumraduate, Mr. Chairman?
University of Santo Tomas College of Engineering.
Okay, good answer. Wala na po akong tanong, Mr. Chairman. Alam nyo, malungkot ang mga taga-UST, talo kahapon sa Lasal eh. Kaya hindi ko na ipapound. Mr. Chairman, I just have one issue that I'd like to raise. First of all, I would like to give this very important information also to our Senate President Pro Tempore. She was saying that as of July 2022, the unemployment rate is 2.6 million. That's 5.2%. Just today, it came out for August, it's 5.3%, which is 0.1% higher. So that's about 2.68 million. So around 80,000 Filipinos were included in this particular data. And but remember, this data that we are getting ng unemployment, yung mga Pilipino na naghahanap ng trabaho. Hindi po kasama dito yung hindi naghahanap ng trabaho. So maybe the maybe the 80,000 additional, hindi mo natin masabi kung sila talaga yung part nung hindi naghahanap before at ngayon naghahanap na. So I just want to put that on record, Mr. Chairman. And perhaps that would be my first question for DBM, whether they are looking into this. And because if you notice, the National Employment Recovery Strategy program of the previous administration will expire or end this year. In fact, this representation filed a bill here in the Senate to institutionalize the National Employment Recovery Strategy. I think it's a good idea to have a blueprint of our game plan as to how we'll be able to create more jobs and address not just unemployment but underemployment. Because if you have a National Employment Recovery Program strategy, and you would be able, for example, in this nurse program of the Duterte administration, this year they target to produce about 2 million jobs. And in that 2 million jobs, I was asking, sige, ilan yung sa iba-ibang sector? Sa manufacturing, pwede nating i-suspend muna to para kwentuhan muna tayo, Mr. Chair. Okay lang naman. Okay lang. No worries. No worries. We can... I already mentioned some of this.
Adjourned. The session is already adjourned.
Okay. There were 2 sessions ongoing, but yeah, I don't mind because I know that our colleagues from DBM are listening to me. Because if you have that program, for example, in manufacturing, in IT BPM, ang target mo, for example, this much, so 100,000, 200,000. Jobs that will be produced in this particular sector, yung TESDA would prepare. Dali nila din yung pondo nila. Hindi yung pag tinignan nyo yung pondo nila, for example, sa scholarship, puro, I have nothing against mga nanggugupit ng buhok at nagme-makeup. Pero kung puro dun lang natin dadalhin, hindi naman po tama yun. No? Wala na tayong mararating. So, isa yun dun sa tinitignan natin na po pwedeng sagot dito sa ating suliranin ng unemployment at mas malaki yung problema natin sa underemployment. Kaya yung binabanggit natin, mahalaga na merong game plan tayo, and I hope DBM is looking into this because yung pagkakaroon ng trabaho ang isa sa pinaka-importante na pangangailangan ng ating mga kababayan. I just want to get your comments and views on this, especially with light of the increase of unemployment from 5.2 to 5.3%. We're still talking about 2.68 million Filipinos jobless, Your Honor, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, yeah, we tried to Google the program because I'm not familiar with the program. And the program is lodged, I think, under DTI.
DTI is the chair of nurse.
An executive order, and it is only from 2021 to 2022. Is that right? Yeah.
It will expire this year.
Yes,
and that's
sir.
why I filed a bill institutionalizing this program. And in fact, it's expanding and give them specific targets. For instance, if the target for manufacturing is 100,000 jobs, where are these 100,000 jobs that will be produced? What regions? Perhaps if we can actually break it down to provinces, mas maganda. Kasi if I'm in TESDA, I would be able to put money where it is needed. Scholarships where it is needed. Kasi hindi ako maggagawa ng agricultural program and scholarship for agriculture here in Metro Manila if I don't have a target to produce jobs in agriculture sector in Metro Manila. Diba? So, ganun lang malaking bagay for me. And I think kung may ahensya, especially kung kayo yung nangangalaga ng ating financial resources, may tumitingin po dito.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, we'll also, as of now po kasi siguro it's worth noting also that in our MTFF, one of the pillars also is jobs. And as of now din po, the NEDA is already preparing the Philippine Development Plan. So with your manifestation po, perhaps we can also inform Secretary RC Balisacan.
I was able to talk to him, actually.
Okay.
I was able to
Sige
talk to RC, Secretary RC, Secretary Jokno. They're all open to this. I'm just wanting to hear from you, Your Honor, that you also support or at least open to studying this initiative of this representation. Because at the end of the day, we really have to have a master plan in creating jobs, sustainable master plan in creating opportunities for our people.
Yes, sir. Mr. Chair, we will support your legislation, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. One last po yung use of ito sa Government Procurement Policy Board, no? Kasi alam naman natin yung I have been very vocal about the abolition of PSDBM, and itong use lang ng tawag dito, PhilGEPS, Philippine Government Electronic Procurement System. May we know, Mr. Chair, yung process that will allow, kasi alam naman natin pag yung mga supplier limitado, yung government agency ito lang yung magpa-participate. Talagang yung mga private sector kasi ayaw nila talaga mag-participate, na parang hindi yan, pag gobyerno wag natin pasukin. So laki nung I don't know if we have the data how much we are missing yung opportunity to get the best quality, lowest price. Hindi naman ibig sabihin pag lowest, best na eh. Minsan, mababa na yung presyo, pero mababa yung presyo, pero disposable pala. So, hindi naman pwedeng gano'n, no? So, yung lang po, no? Yung proseso that will allow prospective bidder to participate in government biddings. What are the eligibility documents na kailangan nila? Mahirap ba? Na-encourage ba sila? Kasi ang nga ako po ay kailangan silang mag-submit or mag-upload dito sa Philippine Government Electronic Procurement System o PhilGEPS. So yun po yung tanong ko, at siguro how often is the PhilGEPS use in identifying potential suppliers for procurement?
Mr. Chair, we have here the Executive Director of GPPB, Attorney Weng Ruiz.
Yeah.
Hi, ma'am.
Please
Morning.
answer.
Good afternoon pala.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Chair, Your Honor. For the registration of suppliers, Mr. Chair, Your Honor, you just have to register to the PhilGEPS. Ito po yung under the procurement service PhilGEPS. The requirements po would be the SEC or the DTI, the mayor's permit, tax clearance for you to get the platinum. Right now po, for suppliers who wishes to participate in public bidding, they need to secure the platinum registration. The purpose is para meron po tayong one document requirement para po mapabilis ang eligibility. At the same time, we're moving towards electronic procurement. Kailangan din po yan para makapag-usap-usap po yung mga systems ng government. That's part of the plan of the modernized PhilGEPS, so that there's going to be an validation or electronic validation. So yun pong PhilGEPS makikipag-usap sa SEC, sa DTI. One of the things we're looking into is how to also connect with the thousands of LGUs for the mayor's permit. The reason po for that is for the eligibility requirement that looks into the legal capacity of the suppliers. Yun po yung proseso po for the suppliers to participate. Wala po tayong pre-qualification in the sense that we do not discriminate against any supplier. In fact, we really encourage competition in public procurement.
I'm just a little concerned, no? Kasi I remember during the hearing ng Blue Ribbon on Pharmaly last Congress, may mga nakakuha ng platinum pero hindi sila worthy to get that platinum status. Tapos itong huli, September 8, 2022, another hearing was conducted by the Blue Ribbon. Ito naman yung procurement of laptops by the Department of Education. Si Ms. Sharon Baile of the Procurement Division, DBM, stated that they have a list of suppliers in Excel file. In such list, they sent requests for quotation to at least 6 suppliers. This Excel file, according to her, stated the basis for these suppliers, the Excel file is the PhilJeps. So, gusto ko lang malinawagan, no? Parang talaga kasi itong pag-procure ng gamit sa gobyerno at masiguro natin na nakukuha na talaga natin yung best, no? At yung kontsabahan, alam natin yan, since time immemorial, kailangan maiwasan talaga at mag-guardan natin.
With the permission of the chair, yeah, Mr. Chair, Your Honors, i-clarify ko po, sir, yun pong quotation. Probably what was being referred to is when they conducted the market study for identifying the EBC. Kasi po, for the laptop project, this is under public bidding. Sa public bidding po, nagpo-post tayo sa PhilJeps, sa website ng procuring entity and other places. So lahat po ng gustong sumali, maaari pong sumali. So that's different po perhaps from what was informed during the hearing. Maaari pong nangyari nito is during the market study, so wala pa pong bidding. Ibig sabihin, nag-aaral pa lang po sila kung magkano ba yung tamang approved budget for the contract. Maaari pong ginamit nila yung listahan ng PhilJeps para malaman ko ano yung ABC. I wish to add also, sir, that insofar as the modernized PhilJeps is concerned, meron po tayong tinitig ng marketplace na gagawin namin o ilalagay natin sa MJEPS, where all procuring entities will be able to access po. Hindi lamang po yung nasa PhilJeps ngayon, pero mas malalawak po yung ating mga access para mas maganda po yung ating pagma-market study ng presyo for government bidding.
Thank you. I'm satisfied with the answer. So hindi pa pala it's more of market study, hindi pa siya a bidding process, no. Anyway, Mr. Chairman, perhaps just to expedite this budget deliberation, may mga questions sana ako, but I would submit to the wisdom of the chair, and because I trust the chief of the Department of Budget and Management, I would just like to ask siguro, Mr. Chairman, request the department if we can be given a copy of how we'll be able to improve our procurement law, because in every government office, department, lahat yun lagi yung sasabihin na kasi natatakot sila. It's no longer a question of magnanakaw ba, mangungurakot ba, hindi. Parang laging, pag may bidding, madadali kami dyan, may mga kukulong dyan. Hanggang ngayon, mayroong mga nadamay. I remember, no, yung pinalitan ko dati sa TESDA, may mga custodian doon, pinapirma lang doon sa na nag-receive ng mga technical equipment. Imagine, custodian doon ay nakulong, natanggalan ng trabaho, etc. So, importante talaga na na-evaluate natin ito, and perhaps that's the main reason bakit naging black eye sa inyo. Every time sasabihin nyo, taga-DBM kami, akala sa inyo, taga-PSDBM kayo. Pag sinabing taga-PSDBM kayo, kawawa naman kayo. So, these are the things that we wanted to avoid and address, para alam ng taong bayan na we're doing our part as legislators, as policy makers, because yung intention naman ng procurement law obviously is to avoid and get the best possible goods, services, or equipment na kailangan natin at the lowest price at walang corruption. So yun lang naman talaga yun. At ayaw lang natin na magkaroon ng ganun. Ito rin yung lagi namin sinasabi sa COA kasi wawa naman yung mga government agencies na I was part of the cabinet once, and there was a time in a cabinet meeting na walang gustong gumamit ng pondo, walang gustong mag-procure ng something because of our laws, and marami kasi din nagpapasikat sa gobyerno, diba? Marami nagpapasikat na sorry, umutot pa lang, diarrhea na, di ba? I'm sorry for the word, pero ganun ho yung situation. Kaya we're here to help in any way we can. We wanted to be your partner in nation building, ang DBM. Kaya please also help us help you. Salamat, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Secretary Mina.
Thank you very much. Yeah, you want to respond? Go ahead, Secretary.
Yes po, well noted. Actually, it's a mandate of GPPB po to continuously review our procurement laws by providing amendments to the IRR. And part of our plan po, in fact, it's really if I don't know if Attorney Weng can already mention of this. We are lining up some amendments to the procurement law.
So, Mr. Chair, Your Honors, we're already in the process of doing public discussion on what we can improve on. When I say public discussion, with the procuring entities, with the suppliers and other stakeholders, including civil society organization, the idea really is to look into the blueprint that the GPPBTS has provided as possible recommendation for amendments of the law. Kasama po dito, number one, would be the possible inclusion of a merit-based procurement process which will incorporate life cycle costing analysis. Yun po kasi yung isang bagay na maaari nating i-take advantage. Kasama po dyan ng performance-based procurement. Kung saan we don't have to procure an item, we can actually just basically lease the service based on actual performance KPIs po. Number two, we also want to enhance our commitments to sustainable consumption and production. So green public procurement is among our priorities as well. Kasama din po dyan yung professionalization of our procurement practitioners. One of the things that we can really do to improve on procurement practice is to really professionalize our procurement officers in the government. As you mentioned, Your Honor, most of the positions din po are not really fit for the purpose. Mostly are admin officers. So we really need to look into the technical capacity. And fourth, really is on electronic procurement to increase transparency and also for us to be able to effectively do data analytics to discover trends that can be non-competitive insofar as public procurement is concerned.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And as the Transparency International defined corruption, corruption is equal to monopoly plus discretion minus accountability. And with that in mind, I think we'll be able to address this very alarming situation on the part of government procurement service. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Is there a target for the submission of that to Congress of the proposed amendments?
Mr. Chair, Your Honors, we're starting with the public consultation, probably, sir, next year po.
Pero when? Kasi if you do it mid-year, then we're busy with the budget. So
We will
maybe you
coordinate.
could do it early enough so we could have substantial hearings on it.
We will certainly aim it strategically, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. I don't think there's anyone else.
And I will move, Mr. Chairman, that the budget of DBM and other agencies we are deliberating today be deemed submitted to the for plenary action, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Ako.
No objection. Then budget of the DBM and the special purpose funds and the MMDA are submitted to plenary for plenary debate. Thank you. Thank you very much, Secretary Mina, Yusek Tina, Yusek Janet, and Chairman Carlo, and the other officials of the DBM family. Maraming salamat sa inyo. Thank you.
Thank you so much as always. Thank you.